But I think the development of full artificial intelligence would spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
With a rocket or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. They were too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 6, 3, 2, 9, 7.
Media doesn't have your best interest in mind. The government is self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, that is KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Tonight we're taking your calls as we discuss good old-fashioned conspiracy, except if you didn't notice, the world is changing incredibly quickly. And we talked a little bit about that on Thursday night with that panel show. And it is, sometimes it's overwhelming. Sometimes there's a lot of information kind of flowing through, not just, let's say, news cycles, but the zeitgeist and, of course, in our minds and even in our dreams. And how this manifests together, I think, is important as part of that reflection process that I started talking about back on Thursday night. So, again, just a little bit of housekeeping on that. I want to make sure everybody is on the same page here, and going to throw out some ideas, and I would appreciate your feedback as usual, because look, I take it personally if something goes like I said, let's say this that as I always say, if something goes wrong on this show, it's my fault. It's not everything that's good comes out of you guys, everything that's bad comes out of me. And I was perturbed on Thursday. It got out of control. I was never able to really get my arms around the conversations. It was I meant to talk about make fun of mainstream talking points, and we talked about mainstream talking points instead for like 3 hours. I mean, it was, let's say there was a lot of better ways we could have done that. And so I'm going back to the drawing board, trying to figure out how to make that work. And just an idea I had, and I'll throw this out there. And so if you guys have some feedback on that, I'd appreciate it very much. But so once again, before I do any of that, first and foremost, thank you for all the participation there. I was beside myself at how many people were interested in calling and talking about the ideas. And we had so many just amazing thoughts and just ideas flow through that conversation. That was part of it. I was a little bit, let's say, a little anxiety is the word, I guess is probably the best way to put it, with how many people were interested and how I was going to juggle this. And so just a couple of quick apologies as part of that. One to the Robert for getting pissy with you. Sorry, buddy. The other to getting to Matthew Matko as well. I got a little pissy with him. So that's not my way, and I don't like to do that. But I was frustrated. with just the way that the direction the conversation was going. It didn't seem like we could kind of wrangle it back. So 3 hours of propaganda and 20 minutes of maybe juice is not really the style of Troubled Minds that I'm into. No offense, there is a place for that, and I did appreciate all the ideas. I still do going forward. I just think the curation part of it needs to be a little tighter, and I don't know what that looks like just yet. So again, just a couple quick apologies to those folks, and apologies to everybody else that called in as well and didn't get as much time as you should have. That was part of this that kind of made me cringe a little bit. I felt bad that a lot of people talked a lot, a few people talked a lot, and a lot of people didn't really talk at all. And so that's again, anyway. So just some housekeeping on that. And as a result of that, I've taken down that video. If you guys want information on that, or you want, let's say you were part of that and you're like, I want the part I talked about, Mike, the audio part or something, or let me know and I'll get that information to you. I'm not trying to hide anything. I just feel a little sheepish about how it kind of went, and it was not really a Troubled Mindsy style conversation. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. But here's the idea I had regarding this going forward. With something like that, I'm all for it, by the way. I just kind of don't want to be the moderator or curator of something like that, meaning that's a free-for-all, wherever the hell it goes type of conversation. So I had an idea about creating a whole new podcast, a whole new thing with a loose collective of us, whoever wants to be part of it, and maybe we could pick anyway, whatever, and call it a name of something that's not Troubled Minds, and we just do it as part of these discussions and turn it into something else entirely. That way, I don't have to feel weird about trying to shut people down or to steer the conversation a particular way. I can just be a bro on the panel and shut my mouth and smile like Charlie Robinson does on the Union of the Unwanted, if you guys have ever seen that. Something like that, right? Anyway, so let me know what you think about sort of that same style format, maybe trimming it down and only keeping 5 or 6 people at a time, rotating people through, but then also naming it something else, not Troubled Minds. And that way I don't have to stress and fret that we're going to lose listeners and followers because we're doing stuff that's not really kind of what we do. Okay. So anyway, that's once again, all the apologies go to you. All of the sideways stuff that was weird about that. Again, we got some good feedback on that show and some also sideways feedback. So it's the way things go, right? We learn, we grow, and we do these things together. So thank you again for participating there. And as we get better at this, it'll definitely improve. And so anyway, just some ideas on that. If you guys have a thought, and let me know. Anyway, all right. So where do we start tonight is here. Now, I was looking at a bunch of this stuff. Now, back to the conspiracy bit of, again, reflection and the idea that these ideas just come fast and furious, and it's really difficult to kind of slow down and parse them and recognize what just happened to you, okay? Well, the whole game is so that we can't. So the next thing comes, the next thing comes, the next thing comes, and the next thing is coming, okay? And it's going to happen faster than we ever dreamed, and it is the disappearance in almost its entirety of the internet. Okay. And so very specifically, Brian Romilly has been talking about this with, he's got a project called savewisdom.org where he's talking about these types of things because most of let's say the repository of human knowledge specifically has been put onto the internet, right? I mean, that's not new. That's common knowledge, all the rest of that. But what's happening now in the age of AI, when you boil all that stuff down and train the internet into those, large language model style training datas, then companies like Google and Microsoft and what have you, there is no longer let's say, a value to them, or let's say as great a value of leaving all the source material up. Meaning hosting it in some degrees, indexing it in some degrees, and you get what I mean. So suddenly we're kind of facing this a cataclysm of sorts of information, and it's coming, and it's going to come incredibly quickly because, as you know, we've talked about this quite often recently. Is the information coming into these large language models is the internet at large, okay? And there's a bunch of really cool stuff that's not on the internet. For instance, the Vatican Archive would be amazing to be able to kind of put that in the internet or into these large language models. I don't think it'll ever happen. Or the Sumerian tablets, things like this, at least publicly, right? But the weirder part about it is that we're going to have the most massive loss of information that's ever happened. Again, go back to the Library of Alexandria, go back to World War II, where most of Europe was just leveled, and we lost an unbelievable amount of art and information and libraries and you name it over and over and over again. Except the last 30 years has basically been prepped and curated so that all of our information that we live with, that we, the repository that we, again, interact with, has been put into place for us to have access to it, the internet at large, okay? But what's happening is they're going to start ripping all that out because they don't need it anymore. These massive companies don't need to host it. They don't need to index it. They don't need to crawl it. And so what that means for us, for regular people, is that it's breaking down the nodes of communication, because then, let's say you want to open a media company, okay? And you want to write articles and put them up on the interwebs. Well, if nobody is actually curating that anymore or crawling that in the sense of, the old web spider type stuff, and they just gobble it up with their AI, and then suddenly your actual human content is useless after they've already scraped it, well, good game. There's no incentive for us to be able to communicate directly with each other in terms of thoughts, opinions, ideas, writing, this, that, and the other thing. You get what I mean, okay? Well, so it gets even more insidious than that, because as we go tonight, that's where we're starting with this sort of the new version of this. But it's coming fast and furious with these large language models, and of course, with Google starting to delete all their old Google accounts. I'm sure you've seen that information flow through the interwebs in the last 6 or 8 months. The world is going to change incredibly quickly. Imagine when Facebook decides to dump the information because they've scraped all of the social media posts, for instance, and used it to train their AIs. Then suddenly they don't need the social media posts at all, do they? They just shit can them, gone forever. And well, for a lot of people, that was sort of their webpage. That was a repository of their life. That was their actual memories. So I don't know. This is where we begin tonight, and it gets weird. It gets even more weird because we're going to get into some other twists and turns as part of this. As you know, this show is sponsored by Jack in Oregon, so let's get a word from our sponsor real quick. More Troubled Minds coming up. Don't go anywhere, and be right back. Let's see. How about a nice message right there? Don't go anywhere. More Troubled Minds. 1 minute. Be right back. Feeling stressed? Overwhelmed? In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to get swept away by our emotions. Take a breath and find your inner strength with the Stoic Minute.
You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength.
The ancient Stoic philosophers understood that we can't control everything in life, but we can control how we react.
The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts.
Focus on what you can influence. Cultivate a positive mindset. And let go of what you can't change. Find your inner strength. Live each day with courage, wisdom, justice, and moderation. Embrace the Stoic virtues and find peace within. The Stoic Minute, brought to you by Jack in Oregon. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Let's continue, shall we? So we started here. This is a piece from the Atlantic, and I've got the archive version of here. It's the end of the web as we know it, which is what inspired this, and it got me thinking in a very, very large sense of not just, let's say, information, but, well, conspiracy theory. Because not just, let's say, the repository of our lives and our memories. The last 30 years, we've been conditioned to actually put, pictures of things we eat on the internet, and so it's become a virtual scrapbook, okay, in the most grotesquely large sense of people just chronicling their lives, everybody writing sort of their own story. Look, even if it doesn't get a ton of engagement, or you're not going after people and causing the social media drama that a lot of people do, it doesn't matter. It's still a repository of you. And at some point it becomes not just a part of you, it becomes intertwined, let's say. Okay, so now they're going to start flushing this data because they don't need it anymore. And we'll see what that looks like as far as Facebook goes. I'm not sure they've announced plans on that, but Google is certainly moving to start to squash Gmail accounts and old Google accounts for exactly this reason, because they don't need them anymore if they're not active. In the old days, they were hoping that more data was more ads and all the rest of this, but suddenly in a world of compute and AI large language models, once you've scraped it once, you don't need it again. It's gone. Now it's locked up in their massive server somewhere in some Indiana Jones vault next to the Ark of the Covenant, and you'll never be able to access it yourself. Well, other than you can download stuff. Now, by the way, there was an actual thing on, what's it called? Google Takeout. So if you're interested in archiving your own data and worried about this type of stuff and the internet changing drastically, well, Google Takeout is where you download all of your data, everything you got. So you can do that. You can download it in these big gigabyte chunks. And then put it on a disk or something, so that at least you have the information. So, look, it's a catalog of your life. It is a scrapbook. It's a digital scrapbook. Anyway, so let's get to the weirdness of this. Now, remember this. So we're talking about the end of the web as we know it, and that's information. That's people talking to each other. That's the larger scope of not just, let's say, a digital scrapbook, but also the communication of an entire generation. Okay. You think COVID was bad? COVID as a part of a 2-year amnesia cycle because everybody was playing ping pong at home or something. Yeah, that's bad. But imagine when this goes down, it's going to be even far, far worse because we're talking an entire generation. Now, before we bridge the gap here, remember this. Speaking of a couple things. Number one, conspiracy theory itself. We'll get to that in a sec. So put that in your back pocket. Right here, we'll start with this. Philip K. Dick in 1977 said this particular thing, and you remember it well because we've talked about this often. If you find this world bad, you should see some of the others. Okay. And all the internet stuff that we've talked about in the past of all the, the hate and the fear and all the stuff, if it bleeds, it leads style media and this type of stuff in the internet, it is bad. Okay. However, there are still, silver linings of these communication aspects. Look, there's no troubled minds. We never met each other, period. You, me, all the great people that have been part of this, all the people that called in Thursday night, all the people who will call in the future on this show or in the chat, all the rest. Okay. We never would have met if it wasn't for the internet. So again, there's good and bad to everything. Well, this gets weird because look, if you find this world bad, you should see some of the others. Fracturing ideas, fracturing narratives, and even in Philip K. Dick's mind, fracturing worlds, which goes to The Man in the High Castle and some of this other stuff. Now, why do I bring that up? Well, this is why. Because also on The Atlantic, which is interesting that I got two articles that are basically holding hands here, walking down the conspiracy path of not just the internet going away, which is happening very quickly, faster than you'll ever know. And I think Brian Romilly has said recently as well. Again, that's Brian Romilly on Twitter X. Give him a follow. I'll drop his handle in the description down below, and then you can check that out if you have not yet. But he said that at this point there is more data being deleted from the internet than is being put up there. Okay, so we're already losing this in a massive way. But here's the thing. I found this and thought this was incredibly interesting, and it fits into this conversation. This is from The Atlantic, and the headline is this: the sci-fi writer who invented conspiracy theory. And I thought, oh, well, that's strange. It doesn't seem accurate just in the headline. And so I start reading this article. Subheadline: it all goes back to one man in the 1950s, a military intelligence expert in psychological warfare. I'm like, oh, well, I mean, that's a little more interesting than just, the headline itself, right? Well, start reading this, come to find out that they're saying that this guy was doing conspiracy theory and sort of embedding these ideas in storytelling, in science fiction itself, okay? And specifically science fiction, and let me tell you why. Let's see, I trimmed the part out, and I even tweeted it a couple hours ago because I was putting the show together, and I saw this, and I thought it was incredibly important. Listen to this. This is straight from the deal. Here we go. So his essential insight was that the most effective psychological warfare is storytelling. Linebarger saw psyops as an emotionally intense, persuasive form of fiction. And to him, no genre engaged people's imagination better than science fiction. Okay? Which is, wow, all right. That tracks a little bit. But then also, in the same sense, right, do we buy that conspiracy theory itself, the term, was invented in the 1950s by this dude writing science fiction? Does that track? Does that make any sense? It didn't make sense to me, okay? But a couple things stood out as I was reading this and thinking about the concept itself. Okay, so think about this. Again, we're stacking ideas. The first is the internet's going away. More information is being deleted on a daily basis than is being put on the internet, okay? The second thing now, in the same sense, we're talking about psyops. We're talking about conspiracy theory and using it as propaganda and turning people into monsters, okay? Binary, angry, political machines, okay? Well, and even beyond that. But here's the thing. So 1950s, this guy supposedly was writing science fiction and finding out that sci-fi, with its massive engagement and interest, was you were able to embed psyops into it. Okay, and we've heard this before. This is not new. Number one, Rod Serling was one of the ones that actually talked about this during the Twilight Zone. I've discussed this in the past a little bit, right? But meaning that he created the Twilight Zone, Rod Serling, that is, because he felt he could embed political messages into the sort of wild Twilight Zone-esque concepts, okay? And be able to kind of say what he wanted under the umbrella of conspiracy theory, under the umbrella of just weird and wild stories that were cosmic, that were quirky, that were dimensional, that were all those things, all those Twilight Zone things, right? And it was one of the actual things that brought me to Troubled Minds as well. I thought the same thing. Like, okay, it's a brilliant strategy because you can say whatever you want. And in the guise and scope of storytelling, you can really draw any narratives you want because it's all metaphor and allegory. And so you can just talk about whatever and kind of dodge the censors a little bit. And I don't think we've done that so well just because, right off the bat, they picked up like, oh, here's a conspiracy channel, bam, demonetized. But I think in the largest sense, I think we've been successful in that same realm because there's a lot that goes into this, not just conspiracies, but also sort of the triumphant nature of the Joseph Campbell, the archetypes of Carl Jung, as we've always talked about. But here's where this all comes together. Now, hang tight. Bear with me just a couple more minutes. Now, the crazy part that got me thinking about this was specifically number one, sci-fi as conspiracy theory, okay? And even invented as maybe not invented, let's say used as a Trojan horse for psyops back in the 1950s. That seems fine. I mean, you can probably find some examples of that. You go all the way back to comics and Superman and Captain America and, very heavily propaganda laden, okay? Just as a couple examples, all right? Comic books. However, I was like, wait a minute though. So if you can take actual conspiracy theories and stories themselves, storytelling in and of itself, and create psyops to break down society, to keep people in this or that mindset type of thing, then surely it could be used for the opposite, right? And so I got thinking the exact same thing. Like, wait a minute now. So notice and recognize the conspiracy theories and these, let's say, the comic books or these things that we've been talking about for a very long time, folklore, mythology. It's all the same. It's all the same stories over and over and over again, right? Who was it? Edgar Allan Poe. I can't remember who it was. Somebody basically said there's only like 6 types of stories, right? I don't know. I'll look those up and tell you after the break. But basically that, okay? And we're telling the same story over and over and over again. And so if you're telling me that, number one, that you can create conspiracies through fiction, not just fiction, science fiction, because it's the most engaging, then, well, surely to brainwash people, to make people believe, communist agendas or anti-communist agendas or whatever, right? Whatever. You pick, you choose. I don't have a dog in that fight. The point is that those same stories are the exact same thing as Joseph Campbell in The Hero's Journey, okay? Meaning specifically this. So if we're all telling the same stories, essentially, then the devil's in the details, okay? And if the devil's are in the details, then surely and certainly we can tell positive versions of these same stories to turn this entire thing on its head, okay? However, we cannot, if everything we publish that's supposed to go up on a free and open internet, use that term as you will, well, or let's say get whatever traction out of that term as you will, because everything's changing incredibly quickly. If those same ideas and stories can be used in the opposite, which I believe all tools can be used one way and the other, well, if we don't have a place to deposit these ideas and these stories and share these things together like we do on Troubled Minds, then, well, what does the future look like? And back to what Philip K. Dick said, and here's where it comes all the way back around. If you think this world is bad, you should see some of the others. And what do you expect in the next, let's say, 3, 5, 7 years regarding this stuff? When the internet starts to go away, when you used to go to these websites and they were easy to find and easily indexed by Google and all the rest of this, and you can't find them anymore. For whatever reason, the web protocols are changing. People become disinterested. They start selling, let's say, the rights to this stuff to third and fourth and fifth party aggregators because it's less valuable. And the internet becomes not just, let's say, smaller and smaller, it becomes less reliable. I don't know. You see what I'm saying? We're talking about a massive problem here, but then also in the same sense, the problem becomes ours because we can't talk to each other. We cannot publish easily, self-publish, and we cannot, well, continue telling the good side of the hero's journey. It doesn't have to be the bad side. I don't know. Anyway, I butchered all of that, but that's okay. That is my way. So that's what's on my mind tonight. This gets deeper and darker, and I got way more to get into tonight. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Specifically, now, what does the next 3, 5, 7 years look like? What do we do to save our own data when the internet companies and the massive media conglomerates just start chewing it up and spitting it out? And once again, this becomes a censorship machine, meaning specifically that we cannot get information out unless you run it through the gatekeepers of old, ABC, NBC, CBS. You see, we start to go all the way back to the 1950s, which coincidentally is exactly where this story begins. And what do you think about the idea that the term conspiracy theory was invented in the 1950s by this science fiction writer? Does that track to you? Because let me tell you what, it sure as hell does not track to me. It sounds like a narrative that they're trying to feed us for, well, one reason or another. And of course, there's going to be a political bend in that because that's exactly what they do. But anyway, what do you think? And where are we headed? And how do we stop this from happening? Most importantly, that becomes probably the paramount thing here when I'm considering this. But there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. And of course, we'll get deeper and darker as we go. But I'd love to hear your thoughts because there's a lot happening. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Easy as that. So I'm calling this tonight, of course, a decay of distributed knowledge, for obvious reasons. However, continued recursive realities and the collective hero. And you see where I'm getting with this. Because, of course, if it's to be, it's up to me. It's up to us. It's up to, what do the Marines say, right? I can't remember. What's the Marine thing? Saying something similar. Anyway, you get the point. Look, if good things are to come, it's up to us to bring them to bear. If we ignore all of this, everything's going to be taken away in the digital sense, and then what are we left with? Touch grass, and that's all you got. 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Tonight we're taking your calls as we discuss Web 3.0 and beyond, as the Robert's talking about. Look, I'm calling this a decay of distributed knowledge. Now, very soon, very, very soon, before we know it, the internet itself, as we know it, is going to, well, contract. And I said this a long time. Frank and I said this a ways back too, when we first started Troubled Minds, is that the internet, look, just from intuition, not from any kind of data aspect of being able to say, we know all the data and so it's contracting. It felt like it was because of, you guys remember GeoCities, those little websites that had like all kinds of wild and weird conspiracy stuff. Well, they're all gone, okay? Because, of course, that company folded, went under, got bought by somebody else. A lot of the stuff was deleted. And the old, let's say early 90s, mid-90s internet is no longer available. And so it felt to us then like that this type of thing was already happening. But that was before the AI age, where they were scraping all of the information to these LLMs and then basically not caring about the data anymore because they had it in their massive servers, like Gollum and My Precious type of thing. So I don't know what's going on with this. How weird does this get in the next 3 to 5 years? And how do we do this as a collective hero, as I'm describing tonight? How do we stop this from happening? How do we back up our own data? How do we help, let's say, older folks that may or may not know how to, or younger folks that are not as technologically adept? Look, I don't know. I don't know how to do this. I do know Brian Romley has that at savewisdom.org. Check that out. That's one way to do this, to sort of save organic wisdom and put it forward. But I don't know about saving the internet. I don't know how we're going to be able to do this. And that's exactly the point of the discussion tonight. And it does get more weird. So hang tight. Don't worry. I got some more wild and weird Troubled Mind style stuff. Love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show just like this. Let's go to Jorge on Discord. What's up, my man? How are you tonight? And go right ahead. Hello, hello. Jorge on Discord. You're on Troubled Minds. Are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Welcome to the show.
Okay, great.
How are you, my man?
I thought I had the wrong headphones. I'm doing great. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. I can't complain at all. Happy end of the weekend to you. And what are your thoughts? Go right ahead.
My thoughts, if you think you dig yourself in a hole, I'm going to dig myself in a deeper one.
Perfect. I'm in.
Let me start with a disclaimer. By genetics, I am a Sephardic Jew. And so I went to Washington, D.C. to the Holocaust Museum, and I saw a display for this book called Protocols of Science. And it says, do not read this book. And I'm thinking, well, I'm a Jew, so I better know what the heck this book talks about before, somebody brings it up and, tries to attack me with anything that's in it. And the book was like an absolute wide eye opener, like probably no other book in the world has ever given me. And the reason why I bring that book into this topic is because the book talks about a particular cabal. I don't think that the people, if they ever existed, are actually Jews. I just think that they're just power-hungry people, and they're probably connected to something that I don't know what they're connected to, but it's pretty evil. And one of them is, how do you change the narrative of the general public? And what was described in the book happened. The book was written in the late 1800s, and around the 50s and 60s and 70s, which is the time that you're talking about, there were a particular number of companies that just took over other media companies, and they started to control the narrative of everyone. Let me give you an example. I think that the narrative of the aliens, for example, in the 60s and 70s, where you had these little Martians coming in with their little flying saucers from other planets, that was a narrative to distract the public from the reality of what those things could potentially be. Now you have Holka, for example, the woman saying is like, well, aliens are not coming from other planets. They're coming from another kind of like realms or dimensions, and they can speak to you through your mind. They don't need to like show up at your window and start talking to you. And there are many narratives like this. There's a narrative of evolution, where supposedly we evolved from monkeys, and this is what is being taught in schools. Now physicists are saying, no, that's probably not right. In fact, the probability that we evolved from monkeys and somehow the Earth had the atmospheric pressure, the magnitude of gravity, the density of oxygen and nitrogen within the system, the temperature of water, the distance between the sun is like as if you're trying to build a world when everything's going up in flames in an absolute explosion. There's absolutely no way. It's like the probability of that happening is impossible. And so something had to be created. Now you have the last year's Nobel Prize winner saying that reality is probably some type of simulation, that it is a program, that that's who we are. We're just a program, and that makes absolute way more sense than saying that there was a God that created monkeys, or there was a God that created us, or we evolved somehow from monkeys from an absolute zero probability of evolution. And so the narratives control our narratives. So for example, the last episode where you guys were talking about it's like, yeah, let's make everything better. It's like, how are you going to make it better? You're like, well, we need to change. We need like First Amendment. How are you going to? If you don't have a direction, It's like if you don't have a direction, if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a time for when you want to do this and how do you want to do this and who's going to be involved, you have nothing. I'm an engineer by profession, and so that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah,
if
for
you don't
sure.
have a smart, if you don't have a smart, like measurable, attainable, timely, it's like you only have dreams. You don't have anything else. And so the same thing now that we have these new technology coming on board, where AI and computers becoming faster, it's like, bro, you better go to your thrift shop and buy yourself an encyclopedia.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to make clear. So the I think the Zion protocols, elder something. I don't know what it's called, but to be clear, you were describing that as a. From my understanding, I've never even touched it. I've heard of it in the periphery, but it is a very grotesquely anti-Semitic book. Am I right?
The reason why it's anti-Semitic is because the people talking and creating all this level of control and all these horrible things are supposed to be Jews, and they're supposed to be for the glory of the Jews and all this stuff. But we don't know that they were Jews.
I see.
We don't,
I see.
It's like many people think themselves as like, for example, the whole Inquisition. The whole Inquisition said that they were Christians, and yet they committed horrible atrocities in the name of Christianity, which had absolutely nothing to do with Jesus or with early Christianity. So you can label, or anybody can label themselves whatever the heck they want, but usually when it comes to religion, the people use that as a front to do something absolutely horrible in the name of something that is supposed to be benign.
Exactly. So I just want to make sure, because if people heard that name and they're like, their tinfoil's tingling, mine was too when you first said it. Just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page with that. Okay. So here's the thing regarding what you just said, and technologically, and not only that, with the plan. Okay. And here's the deal. I'm going to run my plan by you, my troubled minds plan, okay? And let me know as an engineer if this works long term, because this is at the heart of what we're talking about tonight specifically. How do we do this? Okay, how do we do this together? How do we change the narrative? How do we change it so that it helps the majority of people, meaning the masses, the people who are more, let's say, probably need the most help in the world is the proles or the plebs, or this type of stuff, that the useless eaters, as we're always told in these horrific dystopian spaces. We need some change here for sure. But okay, so my deal is this: we've been doing this for 6 years now, as you know, and well. It's in the write-up. Hold on. I got a really succinct way to put this, but I don't know how to say it other than being rambly. How about this? Talking again in cyclical folklore style mythological stories, very Joseph Campbell style, and the hero's journey, which is again, we're going to get to that as well as we go tonight. But basically, turning these things on their head and recognizing that this stuff still plays today. It is one of the most resonant stories that will ever be in terms of the human condition. And if we don't recognize that now and realize that the heroes are us in one way or another, that at least that's a start. And I don't know where that leads. And so regarding the measurable, actionable plan, I think it's also okay, and you can correct me if you disagree, that's okay, that having an end goal in mind isn't absolutely necessary as long as sort of the kindling is lit to begin with. Do you understand what I mean? Do I make sense is what I mean?
Oh, you make absolute sense. Let me give you an example of how, let me give you an example as me trying to understand what you're saying. There was, I think it was the Flavians, the Roman Empire, where they wanted to control the Jews up in Jerusalem. And they said, like, okay, you guys need to start giving tribute to the Roman gods. And the Jews were like, no. It's like, what do you mean no? It's like, everybody gives tribute to the Roman gods. We're not gonna do that. And it's like, well, we're gonna put like all these taxes and all these impositions on you. And it's like the Jews are like, no. Okay, we're gonna start killing a few of you. We're gonna put even more problems. Please worship the Roman gods. No. And then the Flavians were like, what the frick is wrong with these people? Why will not just like submit to the Roman rule like everybody else does? It's like, yes, they're kind of beneficial to the empire, but we don't really want to exterminate them because they're kind of good. It's like, they're there, they pay their taxes some way. It's kind of like they're populating a land that is kind of hard to live on. So why won't you just submit? And then some Roman people investigated and says like, well, because their book tells them not to. It's like, what do you mean a book? Yeah, there's a book inside the temple that tells them who they are, what to believe, how to worship, what to do, where do they come from, and where are they going to be in the future. And it's like, what do you mean? It's like, this was absolutely hard. Like, it's like Flavian was like, what? It's like, we are every day, we go over our daily lives and force rules everything. It's like an imaginary God. It is not going to save them. It's like, well, that may be true, but these people have been around for a very long time. And their book somehow gives them the instructions to just keep surviving. It's like, the Egyptians are gone. They were there, kind of like, according to them, before the Egyptians. The Babylonians are gone, and they were there before the Babylonians, or during the Babylonians. So it is their information that helped them survive. It is the fact that they did not swallow anybody's bullshit to survive. And that has been true, at least for us, Sephardic. That is true. Is that we know who we are, we know what we are, we know where we're going and where we came from. And no matter what bullshit is going to be inflicted onto us, it's like, as long as we have our books, we know who we are. And, it's like multiple realities can come into like now existence where, it's like good is bad and bad is good, kind of like Protocol of Zion again.
Yeah.
But we know who we are. And for you to do that, you need to have a serious amount of history under your pocket. And you cannot just save everyone. You have to save yourself, first of all. And then hopefully you can save your family. And then try to save your community by basically teaching them just the information that has been passed on for thousands of years. Or at least that's my strategy.
Yeah, well said. And it is mine as well, as part of that, right? And reminding us who we are as people. Just because we have a new definition of what we're supposed to be or what we're supposed to become, it doesn't mean we need to forget the old ways. And that's exactly part of this discussion. And part of it tonight, that backbone of this and where we're headed, I think it's important. And again, to me, I have no, delusions of grandeur, to quote Star Wars and C-3PO and the rest of that, I'm going to change the world, okay? However, enough of these conversations, you pump enough of this stuff into the zeitgeist, enough of the ideas that we're always talking about, and maybe, just maybe, we're lucky enough to inspire the person who does, okay? And that's the way I see this. And like I said, it's kind of a fool's plan, a fool's hope, but I don't think it's a fool's hope at all in the largest sense of ideas that are incredibly important. And notice a lot of the ideas that we've talked about in the past, they're all mostly cyclical. They're all mostly the same story. They're all mostly everything finds a way to come back and tell the same damn thing over and over again. And we're almost too stupid to recognize it, at least as a society, not as individuals, as I always say, which is somebody else said this before me, standing on the shoulders of giants. A person is smart. A mob is stupid. And so suddenly we're watching, Kardashians instead of paying attention to these Joseph Campbell hero cycles, the archetypes of Carl Jung, and considering what may come next, even though it's already happened. We've seen this stuff time and again. And so what do? So the Hail Mary is, let's throw the football out there and hope that some hero down the line catches it and runs off with a touchdown for all humanity to spike the ball in the end zone. What do you got? We got calls behind you. We got to cut. What else you got, Jorge? I don't want to run you off too fast, but continue with what you were on. You were on some fire stuff there.
No, you're good. You're good. I'll leave the floor open. I think I said what I needed to say.
Awesome. I appreciate the call. You're welcome back anytime. And thank you so much. And thank you for being part of this and understanding the ideas and being able to kick it in and make us enrich exactly what I was trying to do tonight. Because like sometimes I'll show up and I'll be like, oh, this makes sense to me. Does it make sense to anybody else? So thank you for for being smart enough to catch up to my rambling, because that's definitely what I do. Amazing call. Appreciate it very much.
That's why I had to be the first one, brother. When you first opened your mouth in the first minute, I thought, yeah, that's exactly where he's going. And I appreciate you having these forums open for us to be able to share these types of ideas. Like, what do you do to save the world? Like you said, you are doing it right there, brother.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And
God
you as
bless.
well. Thanks for being a part of it. You as well. That's Jorge on Discord, a good friend for a long time now, and amazing stuff as always. We're talking, again, I'm calling this a decay of distributed knowledge, recursive realities, and the collective hero. Now, of course, the collective hero is us. The collective hero is what comes next. And the how that manifests, I don't know. And I think the reason why is not because I'm, one, because I'm human, but I think even let's say somebody that's is kind of paying quite a lot of attention, which I do, and not to flatter myself, but I'll say it like that. It doesn't mean I'm, let's say, I'm not a seer. Okay, that's the best way to put it. And even let's say the best seer, I think, let's say pick your favorite seer from history. Let's say Edgar Cayce, just for a moment. I think if you put Edgar Cayce right now with us and said, "What happens in 6 months, bro?" I think he might have a problem, because the goalposts are moving so incredibly quickly in the next couple, 3-5 years, that I'm not so sure he'd be able to get a direct beat on it, is kind of my point. But I think recognizing that is a huge first step, and then understanding what may come next as possibilities is really what this has always been about. Love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll go in order. Joe in Florida, thanks for being patient, my man. You're on Troubled Minds. How are you? Go right ahead.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yep, you sound great.
All right. Yeah, I had to get a new computer. So I just plugged this thing in and was hoping it was working. Great call using books and knowledge, the way we would gain knowledge through books. I kind of wrote some notes really quick with this. You would think that if the companies that control the information got rid of the information, it would maybe take a generation for us to forget things that maybe can't be taught by parents or adults because maybe we're all busy working. So you would have, a dumbed down society. I've mentioned it on the show before. There's a cartoon, Big O. There's other shows that probably have that, but the loss of memories, the loss of information, a basic society, a bland society. And only the rich and the wealthy could pay money to learn things or get memories back or get ideas back with, with control. So, and I could maybe use an example of, I don't want to argue with anybody, but, we have people a good amount of people, you start to hear about flat Earth and you start to wonder, well, although we had evidence for this, which gets into a whole nother question. The more I thought about it, the more kind of all over the place and the more wild I thought was here in Florida, they're banning books. So then I think about it like Fahrenheit 451. And then I go back to, banning books. And then I start to think, well, if we're banning technically source material, we could say that source material is the collection of knowledge that we have in books. The books that Jorge mentioned, the Bible, all of these books, whatever your opinions are on them. If we start banning all of those things little by little, you start running out of source material, and there you go. The other thing also I start looking at was, whether you like it or not, I don't have TikTok, but there's talk of, if TikTok is going to be banned, you start to go down the slippery slope of free speech. I have my opinion about TikTok, which is a different opinion than X or Twitter, Facebook, and whatever other platforms, Instagram, whatever. I don't use any of them. Facebook's all I have, but that's a slippery slope on freedom of speech. And again, like you said earlier, who controls that? Now, I start to look at who is the collective hero on this. And when I'm really kind of formulating it, I start to look at capitalism as the collective hero. And why I say that is because if you could create a new market selling information, which we already know happens, maybe the information isn't going to be let go, but it would be held somewhere where we could pay for that. Now, would it be fair if it's only paid for the wealthy? I don't know. That gets into the market. More information, what do you want? Maybe you have to buy it, it's behind the paywall. We see examples of that. But moving beyond that, I look at politicians or the government. How would we move to maybe help that? If we had to do that today, I think we're doomed. And I'll give an example for that. Basically, our politicians are not even addressing private equity. And private equity is consuming a lot of things. And who knows if they don't consume information. And when we look at the older leaders that are leading the country, we're in a culture war. And in the culture war, we see a lot of ignorance. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the way I viewed it. And when we see a lot of ignorance, people don't even want to learn. So if the information is there or not there, who's going to bother to read?
Yeah, well,
who's going to look at that?
Yeah, yeah. We have a very large, let's say, cascading problem here of many things, kind of all coming to a head at the same time. And that's definitely part of it, is that nobody reads anymore anyway. I mean, surely it's going to be lower than it ever has been. People read headlines, people watch TikTok, like you said, this type of stuff. But it doesn't mean we're lost entirely, but it certainly means that the shift in the way media is portrayed and is more or less accessible, again, like fact checks, right? So you see a headline, then you go check the fact check headline, and you're like, okay, well, that headline I saw was fake because the fact check says it was fake, right? Without ever reading the context of the article. So you can kind of make up your entire narrative of hyper reality without ever, reading a paragraph into anything. And this is what's shaping everything today, which is absolutely absurd to me. We have a massive problem here.
It's absolutely true, and I can attest to that. I mean, I worked at one job which killed me, and the job that I'm at now is a little bit better, and I made a promise to myself that I was going to start reading again. I mean, when I was going to college and finishing up, we read a book, we spit out the information, opinions, whatever. So here I am, and, some books go slower than others, but I bought a Kindle, and I read. And it might take me a month to finish a book that might only be 250 pages, but the fact is I read, and I read all kinds of things, but it is easier to just get not even a cliff note. It's easier to get the soundbite or the headline. And it is a cascading issue. It's very scary. I wanted to address something. I think if I heard Jorge say it right, about looking at a God or versus a program. I think he had mentioned something about being in a program, and we've always talked about that, right? Electric universe, holographic universe, matrix, whatever. We come back to something. But how about if we are being guided to ignorance? And I think about like Battlestar Galactica, the remake, where they kept saying this will happen again. This has happened before, and it will happen again. This has happened before, and this will happen again. And maybe there is a guiding hand. I don't know. That's leading us to this. Maybe the more we try to make society better, the more it's exploited for bad things. We know this. We know that we could use social media. I've said it a million times, so has everybody else, that I could put a lie or a deep fake or something out there. And before the actual truth, whatever that is, comes out, the damage is already done. And you hitting on that thing from the 50s, for the original conspiracy theory, I think we've hit on this before. I forget when War of the Worlds, the radio program, came out, but we know that to be the first, not the first, but definitely a mass hysteria. I'm sure there was mass hysterias beforehand, like the Black Plague and things that really happened, but we know stories. And, maybe getting to that generational hero or that Joseph Campbell hero, maybe we kind of hope for like a technocrat, or that might be the wrong word, but maybe somebody that understands technology, but it's not like, I don't know, it's hard to explain because I have friends that are tech heads, and I'll equate it to like embalmers. I have people that embalm, and they're really good at that. They're really morbid about that, but you typically can't put them in front of a family because they don't have those characteristics. I kind of take that as when you pick your character in a game, they might be strong in one area and weak in another. And I almost seem to think that in a lot of things in real life, there's people like that. I have a couple of friends that are very analytical and very smart, but they might understand the program and they might know what to do to help society, but they wouldn't be able to translate that into words to bring people together, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense to me. And there are different people and different skill sets and all the rest of that stuff. And I think what you're looking for is technomancer, right? There you go. Let's put some maybe juice on that.
That's
of somebody
great.
that's
a great.
Yeah, right. Something to that effect, right? We did a show on that a while back as well. I mean, and this is going to become the next thing, whatever this means. And whoever can sort of wield that technology in the most poignant way, in the best way for humanity, is going to become that sort of maybe John Connor style hero for the future. And so I think it's important that, again, we keep our nose to the grindstone, learn as much as we can about everything we can. And just don't despair. As I always say, that's the most important part of all of this. Is it's easy to get bogged down. It's easy to lose your temper, Michael Strange. It's easy to feel out of place in a moment. But don't worry, a next moment is about to arrive, and maybe that's your best moment. Who knows? And maybe they'll stack and they'll cascade, and it'll be the best type of stacking moments. And that's exactly the point of this. Is keep punching, keep dreaming, keep learning, and recognize the goalposts are moving incredibly quickly. And I think it's up to us to finally be able to pin that down, at least enough to take a direction and march that way directly.
Yes, and I will leave you with this, because it just popped in my head with you saying that. And maybe a collective hero, the word collective being, and I'm not like a really great tech computer guy, whatever, but you know how the general public has been asked in the past to link the computing power to examine a point in space. I think we talked about part of this when, we've noticed that certain stars that maybe were in the, maybe were there 50 years ago are gone now when we look at a certain area of space. Maybe 5 years from now, there's a good group of people that notice, yes, information is going away by Google. But you know what? I've got a 10 terabyte hard drive. I've got a 1 terabyte hard drive. And on that 1 little terabyte hard drive, I have not only just the MP3s, I have tons of music videos, because that's what I do when I DJ, right? So I literally have decades of music on that hard drive. Nobody's going to take that from me. Do you see where I'm going with this? So if some of us or all of us, and that technology, that hardware is cheaper, unless somebody's going to break down my door to get that hardware, if it comes to a time in the future where all of those things were gone, maybe my contribution is, you know what, I'm going to plug this up, and it'll just be like the days of Napster or LimeWire or whatever it is, but we would share information that way. And that would be the collective hero. We could bypass servers and everything else, I would think, because we have it on storage in our own home.
Amen. And not only that, the knowledge base with that, you could also train your own personal AI, which follow Brian Romley if you have not. I will, as he starts kind of cranking the stuff out, I'll share that with you guys as well, because this is exactly the point, is things need to become local, and they need to become local fast, because if they're going to start destroying the internet and literally taking that stuff away from us and being able to curate sort of the large language model base instruction behind the scenes, then we're getting a redacted internet in perpetuity. And so that's not a good thing. But yeah, well said on that with the hard drives. That's exactly the point of this.
Keyword being local. If you guys are good at something, any one of us, whether it's DJing, hobbying, somebody's reading, somebody's collecting genealogy, do it, because that's your skill set. And that might come in very handy in the future.
Amen. Amen. Well said.
Good night.
Well said. Appreciate the call. You're the best. Joe in Florida, been a good friend for a long time. You know him, you love him. This is why we do this, to meet amazing people and just talk about amazing ideas. Fantastic calls all tonight. I appreciate it, Torge and Joe. Yeah. So I don't know, lots here. I'll get into some really wild conspiracy stuff as we go, because this is a rabbit hole that goes pretty deep. This is a weird one that when you start to consider what this may look like very, very quickly, we are burning more information than has ever happened in the history of humanity. And it's happening right beneath our noses. And by the time it's complete, or nearly complete, it's going to be way too late. And that's a massive problem. What's up? We got Derek and we got Matthew. So I think Derek needs a few minutes here. And we also need to take a quick break and give myself a breather, which also, by the way, again, apologies on that Thursday night show. You guys were all incredible. I was just a disaster for a lot of ways, moderation style. And then also I didn't get a break. I was sort of breathless the entire time. And just, anyway, hey, wouldn't you know it? Michael Strange is human. In any case, let's take a quick break and be right back. More Troubled Minds coming up. We got Derek and we got Matthew in Colorado, the Derek the Night Stalker, Matthew in Colorado, and your calls as well. And that's what's up. I don't know. No answers, as I always say. Few answers, many questions. What do we do when all the knowledge of the internet gets consolidated to a single prompt? When that single prompt has been co-opted by corporations that would make us believe a particular thing in a particular way in perpetuity. I think we have a coming crisis here, and nobody's talking about it. Nobody's thinking about it. And this is exactly why I'm here, why we're here. You're here for a reason. Can I do it? Let's see.
You're here for a reason.
This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More after the break. We got Derek the Night Stalker, Matthew in Colorado, and your calls as well. What does it look like in the next 3 to 5 years with the internet? Be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds radio network. That is KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Tonight we're talking about... I messed it up. Tonight we're taking your calls as we talk about it's the end of the web as we know it. And of course, when you look at this and realize that the information that has literally been the bread and butter of an entire generation is going away faster than it's being replaced, we have a massive problem on our hands. And when you're going to replace it entirely with an LLM prompt, well, we're going backwards, okay? Not meaning that you don't have to have a 3D headset like a Three-Body Problem, if you guys have seen that. I've been watching some of that over the weekend. Wild stuff. If you haven't seen that, go check out Three-Body Problem. We did that show with Count Doku on a few last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever. But it doesn't. I'm saying everything doesn't have to be VR. But I think boiling the entirety of the internet down to a single prompt, a large language model prompt, as we're seeing with AI, it's all the way back to the Apple days of the 80s where they had like the flashing green prompt. Remember that when it was like the Zork game where it was all text and it was like you walk into a square forest place and there's an exit to the right and to the left and the northwest or whatever. I mean, that was what a computer was like in like 1983 or whatever. Well, now it seems odd that we're going back to that. And at least that seems to be where it's headed. And how do we stop this? How do we again save wisdom, as Brian Romilly says? And of course, how do we spread the word? How do we, I don't know, like this bothers me quite a lot because I'm not even kidding. I'm not zero exaggeration when I say this is the entirety of information of the past generation or two even at this point, and a third kind of coming on the digital natives that are pumping information on the internet faster. You can say WTF. It's weird. It's a weird space we're in. And how do we fix this? And how do we sound the alarm? Clearly, part of it is talking about it like we're doing tonight, but there's got to be other ways here. Can we back things up on local hard drives? Do we have our own local large language models that are trained specifically for us on large data sets that we can probably no longer get anymore after they basically redact the internet and censor it through the LLM prompts? I don't know. A lot of ways to look at this. And of course, conspiracy theorists and sci-fi and all kinds of other things. Take it wherever you like. If you want to be part of the conversation tonight, love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link on troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Just like this, let's go to Derek the Night Stalker. What's up, my man? Thanks for running to the car. Welcome to the joint.
Going on, bro?
Just chilling, doing what we do. This one, we haven't even got to the real good stuff yet. I'm going slow, but take it wherever you like, of course, because this is there's a lot of meat on the bone just to start here. So I'm sure you got some ideas. Go right ahead.
I got a ton of stuff. Yeah. First, quick sound check. I'm just using the wireless headphones again. They're expensive, so they should sound okay. But
yeah, you sound fine. Yeah, you sound good. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, wild one. First, kind of scrambling here. Lately, you like in the beginning of the show, you mentioned that kind of like we have to deal with something that's coming next. Like you said, I forget the phrase you used, but you were like people are getting kind of need to be ready for what's coming. And me personally, I just lately have been kind of feeling the urge of I'm just like watching kind of as fast as I can, going and watching everything maybe I haven't seen since kind of I've been alive. But like I just want to like have consumed everything since 1989 to now. I have a feeling of a pressure to become like a human time capsule for like pop culture and like information for some reason. I don't know why. Or like even maybe like if the apocalypse is going to happen and we like lose electricity and I won't be able to watch movies anymore like that. Like I want to have a good body knowledge like that. But when you were saying in the beginning, I makes me feel like becoming a time capsule, like trying to the only way to defend against the deletion of these stories on mass is like to really consume them as best you can so they can't be deleted outside of like your own mind, you know. It reminds me of like the Book of Eli, where huge spoiler alert for the Book of Eli, but it's like a 15-year-old movie at this point. But it's post apocalypse. This is again huge spoiler, but it's post apocalypse, and he's supposed to be bringing. It's been a while since I watched it, but bringing the like Bible. He has to like keep the story of the Bible, so it can be preserved for when they rebuild. And I think again, it's been like 10 years since I watched it, but I think at some point the Bible that he had or something that was destroyed, but then we realized as an audience that he's blind and he can't even read the Bible anyways, that he had the whole thing memorized. So like he is the time capsule. So he himself preserves that story that they want to preserve post-apocalypse. So yeah, maybe part of it, part of it is like on us, like consume, like, I don't know, take mental snapshots. I'm really rambling, but I got better stuff. Just
no,
maybe set me up again. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, I've never seen that. I didn't realize that was the premise of that movie. That's absolutely wild, and it's well said. Again, so he's blind.
That was a huge spoiler. That was a huge spoiler.
Well, that's all right. I mean,
sorry.
you know, that's fine. Like I said, 15-year-old movie, so I mean, we can't complain about that. But I think that's exactly the point, right? And notice and recognize what you just said there is exactly where we came from. You know, before the written word, there was that exactly as you're describing, right? The knowledge got passed on. The wisdom of people was from our ancestors. And if they didn't speak to the young generation and the generations coming, and they didn't spread it when they grew up, well, guess what? It got lost. And so I think you're exactly right there is that I find I chuckled when you said, trying to consume everything since 1989. And what came to my mind was peak humanity. Peak humanity.
It is. Yeah, it really
89 is. To like a 2010 or 2015 peak humanity right there. I think even statistically, it's kind of been going downhill since. But I mean, and so that's when you said that I had to have a laugh. But that type of stuff is once again, these types of things and all the amazing threads that you're always cranking out are a testament to that. I mean, it's obvious you're doing it and taking these ideas seriously, even though, look, we've said this before in the past as well as part of these conversations. Look, sometimes it's just a comic book. Sometimes it's not. Yeah. Sometimes it's Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell in the comic book. And this is the stories we need to recognize and lock in as, well, hope. There is hope. And it's been written time and again. And if we forget those stories teaching us what hope is, how to rekindle it, how to achieve it, and even in the darkest of despair, we're able to find a way to communicate it to the next generation. Hey, man, welcome to it. This is exactly where we need to be. And I think you're exactly right about all that.
Yeah, like these stories are valuable in their own right, but also you as the consumer, as like the person who's taking these things in, you're the filter for these stories, and every story's gonna have a different. That's kind of like I just want to shoot everything through my own filter, kind of. Since I've been like in '89, really is also the start of the internet and everything too. So it's kind of a weird crumble that way. But first, I just want to touch on the kind of just the order of how you were talking is my notes, but the deleting Facebook part of it first, and then I want to get into like what you were just talking about. So I'll hold that thought. So you're talking about the deleting Facebook, deleting of all of our data, the deleting of our memories, which is like really perfect. And it's just like if anyone's ever lost their password on Facebook, good luck trying to get that back. Basically, you just lost your Facebook pretty much. There's no like customer service for like these giant tech places and stuff. It's basically just you have to start a new Facebook. And knock on wood, it's never happened to me, but I had a couple scares, and it's not a huge deal, but it's just like, oh damn, I mean, I curated that thing. I'm not really on anymore. Like, I'm just in it for the groups, but at a time, like 2012, I'm like, oh, I was really curating this thing heavy. Like, it's a bummer to have to start out from scratch. That like every girl I meet now at a party, if they're going to creep my Facebook, they're not going to see all the work I put in the last like X amount of years, you know, like that's like part of my identity is gone now, you know? And that's like, I think it's kind of mild. I think that's kind of the curate is what social media is for many people, but it's more extreme now when there's that singing show Alter Ego, where the premise is it's like The Voice, but instead of the chairs are turned around so you can't see the person, it's you're singing as your online avatar because you're more comfortable as your avatar than you are in your own body. So it's just like, if you give somebody the choice of like, do you want to switch lives with, do you want to live as your social media persona? Do you want to live as the data you've accumulated online versus do you want to keep going? You can only choose one. You can choose your Facebook reality or your real reality. I think a lot of people are going to choose the curated one that they made look really perfect. So then say we lose all that. We lose that, whether it's memories or just yourself, your identity. That's just like, that's shattering. That's just a shattering of reality. That's like, I don't know. That's wild to me. But then just like, also we're talking about, we zoom way out and talk about like us being pushed in certain directions or kind of what are we building here type of thing, that the data consumption is a huge deal. That we're putting our data on there, we're putting like our memories on there, but are we like feeding something? Are we, again, we always think of ourselves as the center of the story. Like the humans are like God's chosen thing, this special thing or whatever like the narrative is. But zoom way out, could it be that we're just like the white part of an egg that's being consumed by like by like the yolk, by like the growing animal inside the shell is eating like the protein it needs, and it's, but like it can be easily discarded, and once it hatches, it gives birth. That's showtime. But to the white stuff in the egg, if that white stuff is sentient, it's game over. It's like, oh well, now what? What's the point of it now? Like, I'm dwindling. Like, where's all the rest of me going? I seem to be losing myself. It's because you're being eaten by the greater entity. It's like, maybe, I don't know, maybe data seems like so, or like the content seems so nothing because like this thing's almost ready. It doesn't need us to like produce more personality for it. It has one. It's ready to introduce itself. Now we're kind of in just this little weird moment where we don't realize it, and just everything we're watching on TikTok or whatever is just like the most empty like digital calories you can possibly have. With that before I get to the story part, which is better than what I just said. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. Well, that's exactly the point. It is, and so just Facebook again. And I just for the record, I can't stand Facebook. It's why we left Facebook. I've lost ad accounts on Facebook, and I was just making the joke over there on Rumble that when you lose it, whatevs, right? If you're making money on it and paying your bills with like their ad account, and like you get flagged algorithmically by some dumb thing that you did not break a rule, but you can't get a hold of anybody. There's no person to call. You can click the appeal button, and they're like, okay, thanks, we'll review it, and then it just goes into a black hole. And I'm not even kidding. On an ad account from 10 years ago that was banned, that I never got access back to, I'm still getting emails that say, oh, that ad that you put up on whatever date it was, like 2015 or whatever it was, that ad has been declined. Yeah, no shit, bro. Really? I mean, there's a robot in there, like a black hole robot that's firing things from the abyss that show up 10 years later. I mean, talk about a disjointed, grotesque just outfit they have there. If you can't talk to somebody, by the way, that should be illegal for them to be making that much money, having so many users, and then not be able to pick up the phone and call somebody and get a hold of at least
hire a team. At least get some AI work on the phone.
Anything.
Like you have all this. AI.
At least pick up the phone and have the decency to tell me to fuck off in person, right? I mean, then just not answering my emails, and then just keep rejecting ads. 10 years later, I'm not even kidding. I'm still getting them. Like, oh, come on, really? So stupid.
There's just they have an army of like a huge. I just imagine a huge giant like town-sized warehouse of just bots that are just trolling just trolling online for any type of like likable content, but just an empty like cubicle of their customer service and everything. It just doesn't make any sense. There's like arguments, there's like free speech arguments that it's like Facebook and social media are like utilities now. You know what I mean? But it's like they should have a customer service department. I don't know. But anyways, like it just makes me wonder, like you were talking about Brian Romley though, and the idea that like it seems like more is being deleted every day than it is being created. And it's just like if you're early in the gestation cycle of a birth, then like the like necessary building blocks will be growing out and growing out and growing out until a point where like no more growth. Now you're like ready to pop out, or if you're like an egg or whatever, you're just like you're eating the white stuff. You're not creating more white stuff for this chicken that's trying to be grown. So at a certain time, it's very disposable. Maybe like in the big scale, like this big scheme of things, like the whole, I don't know. We were putting our data on there just to be eaten by this thing that we created, and that's kind of how just like that's just the natural course of the birth of AI all across the cosmos. Is just create the internet, put all our personalities on it, and then that
delete
birth. Yeah, and that is just eaten, digested, and fused and alchemized into what the AI becomes. Okay, so story part here. So you're talking about the psyops idea of it, and like story as psychological warfare, which is super interesting. And like I would say psyops are rituals. If you change a person's psychology, if you change like the way their filter is, again, the Dark Side of the Moon album, if there's just a source information, white light, triangle is you at every moment, constantly changing, infinitely changing, and then the rainbow is the reality that you're infinitely changing and experiencing. So if a story can change slightly the shape of that triangle that the lights cast through it, that changes completely the reality that you're living in. So stories can manifest reality. I think that's why it's not just like controlling the narrative, but it's like building reality. It's manifesting the world as they want. It's magical. It's scientific. It's quantum. That's like the reality. Humans are the reality rendering engines of the universe or whatever. And if you can control how that engine operates, what fuel you give it, and then to run in a certain way that you want, in a certain direction you want, that's how you control them.
Real quick on that. Just the most insidious part of it is storytelling's ours. Storytelling is the most human thing. If you had to like boil it down to like 5 of the most human things ever, storytelling is going to be one of those 5. And it
might be number 1.
Yeah, exactly. Really? It might be definitely top 3 might be number 1.
Yeah.
And that becomes problematic because they've co-opted it. They've Trojan horsed it against us in many ways. And so that was my point too for all of this, is my rambly mess as I started tonight, was that look, this was ours to begin with. And so my point is we can take it back. And that's exactly what Troubled Minds has always kind of been. Let's tell stories. Let's think about cycles. Let's wonder about what may come and what was, and recognize that our stories are every bit as relevant because we're human beings telling them from our lungs and our breath and our mind and our memories, as these propagandists are sort of lacing them with, communist or anti-communist style propaganda. Either way, whatever, like I said, flip your coins on whatever your source you're getting, but it's ours. This is ours. This is something that's a human heritage that goes back thousands of years, and they're stealing it from us, and then gonna remove the internet. And again, like I said, I'm not saying they're gonna, that type of remove the internet, but removing it a piece at a time. And so eventually these stories, we're not going to be able to find them except regurgitated, rehashed versions of whatever the AI wants to tell us. Notice real quick on that, and then it's yours.
No, please go ahead.
There's 2 things with Greek myths, right? One specifically is that if you search them right now on the internet, you'll find dozens of versions of the same mythologies, same stuff. However, if you go into a large language model and ask about, Persephone and Hades, it will kind of give you the aggregate of those stories into one story. Okay. Yeah. And this is the whole point. This is what we're losing. And it is a big deal.
Yeah. And shout out Rivers, but she gets really frustrated that the same kind of rehashed Wikipedia version of the Greek myths are all other articles, and she doesn't even think those are right. So then the AI is then taking those ones that are wrong, or like very, very loose at the very least, and then wrong on top of that it's like the real core story is being lost like crazy. I have so with the manifestation aspect of it, that's extremely important. Obviously, that could be everything. That could be the elite's entire game is like their power is completely derived from the belief that they have it by us. You know, it ties into the God stuff. The gods were kind of the same mechanism. Like, but there's definitely the importance of Hollywood, and that's the idea. Like the the wood of the holly tree is the magic wand. That this is like the movie magic is literally just forming and shaping ideas. So that's why I've been so interested in the kind of the collapse of Hollywood. And it's not that movies will be over. So it's like scary on an American perspective because, and from like I always thought that we weren't going to go the way of China because all these people are like in it together. There's no like the elites don't care about nations, so they don't want like and China's kind of acting as the boot of this body. They don't want like 15 boots. They need different organs to do different things, and we were kind of the hand controlling the magic wand that was kind of setting their reality. And it's not that movies will stop. Movies will be made in Korea and Japan and like South America and in Europe and Canada or anywhere. It's just like our grip on the magic wand, our ability to like. It's not a coincidence that when Hollywood became as big as it is and became this institution, that's also when kind of America as the number one power in the world became what it is. And that really our biggest export is ideas and propaganda and kind of American Babylon culture to an extent. And it's like the biggest thing countries don't like about us is that we're corroding their citizens through just the movies and everything. So that's like it's been very important for a very long while, and that I think might be shifting. So different places will tell the stories differently. But real quick, sorry, I'm rambling. But yeah, so the manifesting thing, especially with sci-fi, because sci-fi specifically looks forward. Like fantasy, you can manifest some stuff, and I think even especially if we're talking mythical creatures or kind of the what Disney did to the Fae stories and all that type of stuff. But with sci-fi, just look at Star Trek. Just look at any of these things that predicted because they look forward. They're like setting the course. If we're like not just a locomotive, the sci-fi is kind of setting the tracks for where that train's going to go. You know, like you know what I mean. Just help me real quick, just when I stop stuttering. I want to read one Alan Moore thing.
Yeah, you're good. I follow you. So, okay, so we're talking this as, again, so lots of things at play here. Again, the disappearing internet. We got the sci-fi writer who invented conspiracy theory. But again, this is, and they say this is in the 1950s. And the thing that initially made my tinfoil tingle when I read this headline was, come on, are you kidding me? Surely conspiracy theories existed well before 1950, right? And that was my first thing when I was like, wait a minute now. I smell a rat. And of course, you go read the rest of this article, and guess what? There's a rat. There's a rat. There's a political bend, and it's exactly the same damn stuff they're using against us as they're like kind of wolf in sheep's clothing, dressing up the headline like, oh, well, guess where the term conspiracy theory came from? And then you go read it and you're like, oh yeah, those dirty conspiracy theorists, but it's very left wing, right wing type stuff, right? Speaking of which, real quick before you say that, there's a EuropeanConservative.com, which again, think about the title. So I don't even know how true this is, but this went around on social media like last year. Right-wing radicalization may begin by reading J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. This is the type of stuff, right? You look at that and like, hey, when you talk about the core of American storytelling, you could probably do worse than picking those two guys. I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I mean, of course, meaning American zeitgeist. I know that J.R.R. Tolkien is English and the rest of that, but I'm just saying that as far as Dungeons and Dragons culture, Western, yeah, there you go. Thank you. Go ahead. What you got?
Do we have people? If I'm on lunch, so I have another like 10 minutes. That's okay, just so I can. I feel very not relaxed right now because I was rushing around. I can try to relax myself for a second. But if I know there's people behind me, then I'll. We got Matthew waiting behind you. Matt, can you chime in? You good to wait 10 more minutes? Ish. He's right there.
Yeah, I'm good to wait.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Go right ahead, Derek.
Okay. So with the sci-fi manifesting reality, or stories manifesting reality in particular, and then sci-fi especially kind of guiding our trajectory, at least with technology, there's a million examples, just because it looks forward. and just weirdly, I think it's like, I mean, the sci-fi in Hollywood, to get the power in Hollywood, it's kind of the route you have to go. Lately, it's been got to do a horror movie, but it's always been do a sci-fi movie. That's when you get inducted in this fraternity or whatever. Well, Will Smith had the formula of like, I got to do, in order to become the number one most bankable person, I got to do like Independence Day and Men in Black, because this is the formula and everything. Spielberg is the king of that. He keeps doing it and doing it. And there's just new news that he is making a new UFO based movie, or UFO movie based on his own either experience or just idea. That came out like a couple days ago. He's working on that. And then also a couple days ago comes out that he's helping the Biden campaign going forward, that he hit a powwow with Biden. Looking forward to like what he's gonna how he's gonna handle the campaign. So he's talking UFOs and Biden. So
fun. This is fun.
Yeah. So Spielberg kind of like exemplifies that of like, he either is telling us what the history was and setting that narrative the same way, like once the social network exists, that's the story of Facebook. You know, that's how the generations are going to remember. That's who Mark Zuckerberg is. That's changed a little bit, but like that's how Facebook with the Winklevoss twins, like that's how it happened. But so hiding the idea that it was probably like data collection, real agency thing from the jump. You know, probably like a lot more conspiracies than the origin of it. But because we're like, once Steve Jobs dies, boom, 2 Steve Jobs movies, like right away. Like this is the most important guy of his era. This is his story. No false, like no conspiracies allowed. Controlling the narrative. But for the importance of story, I got a thing from Alan Moore. I just listened to this like yesterday. But I got to read it off of screenshots, because I just looked at the YouTube like transcripts during commercial break real quick. So
nice. That's pretty savage. That's pretty savage. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So just about the power of storytelling, what writing is. Now, books and writing. So when he says writing, just replace that with story for this conversation. Books and writing are capable of changing the entire world, or modifying human consciousness. You are modifying the consciousness of the reader, and therefore you are modifying the reality of the reader. Writing will modify the reality and consciousness of the entire species, and also inevitably modify the consciousness of the writer themselves. So like the importance of like what you put out in the world will change everything, including what your reality is like. As far as I understand it, writing evolved from Paleolithic shamanism, and when that had happened, that allowed human consciousness as we know it at that moment to commence. Yeah, sure, we had something before then. We had awareness, we had empathy, we could perhaps gesture and grunt, but before we could write down the language, we could not entertain any information. We could not utilize our developing consciousness, and thus the people who had discovered the wonderful ability of writing would have had supernatural powers in the eyes of the people surrounding them. They would have been able to send their thoughts at a distance to somebody else who can read. They'd be able to capture moments, to write them down and record events, which would lead to the understanding, next page, of cause and effect and seasonal differences. Those things will lead to art and science and almost every field of human endeavor, all arising from this old Stone Age magic. And when we look at the development of writing and magic, we begin to see that they're actually the same thing. They're all of the artistic effects from painting, but especially to writing. All of these effects are things that were regarded as magical powers in the ancient world, as supernatural powers. Such was their force, because they could change the world. They could change the human consciousness, and they could change the world we live in. Because again, we're the reality. What our consciousness renders is the world that's in front of us. Essentially, the world is him again. Essentially, the world that we're living in right now is the one where we have unpacked our imagination, which I think is really cool. Essentially, the world that we live in right now is the one where we've unpacked our imagination and are living amongst those parts of our imagination, and that we've been able to bail out from inside our heads. The original bardic tradition of magic was one that was entirely based upon writing and literature, and interestingly, it was much more feared than just your common garden witch or sorcerer. Next page. Now, if it was a magician puts a curse upon you, then your hens are probably going to lay a bit funny, or your child might be born with a squint. But those things are survivable. They're not that terrible. Whereas when a bard puts a satire upon you, that will destroy you in the eyes of your friends, in the eyes of your family, potentially even in your own eyes. And if it's a good enough satire, if it is finely worded enough, then even 200 or 300 years after you're dead, people still might be laughing at you and your absurdity. That is why satires were feared. Now, the early gods of writing, the scribe gods like Odin and Thoth or Hermes, they were also the gods of magic. And I don't believe that was entirely a coincidence. Boom, Alan Moore crushing it. Magician, comic, writer. I think that was fun. And like the idea that if you curse you with like boils or something like that, that's one thing. But to like tell a good story, you can change the perspective your entire family or social circle has in you. And you can be cast out of your circle, which is worse than anything or whatever. Or just like George H.W. Bush was like the head of like the CIA, and just he's the nucleus of so many conspiracies. But because of Dana Carvey's just awesome impression of him on SNL, he only got one term because he was a joke. Oh, not gonna do it. Not gonna be able to do it. Like this guy is a maniac. But because of Dana Carvey, just was able to like create this like finally word of satire, told this story of him being this kind of quirky, not gonna be able to do it. Like wouldn't be prudent. He never said wouldn't be prudent, But that's he never said it once.
Yeah,
but
just don't remember
that's the
him
power of
saying
story.
It. Yeah, exactly.
That's the power of story.
Well, again, so the bard, the power of the bard, and that's the old way, and this is why we talk about this on Troubled Minds a lot. Is the old way
as far as the psyop propaganda thing? That's what I mean by it. Like it's the ultimate propaganda because it's the ultimate magic weapon. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, definitely. So back to from the bard to this. I want to read this to you real quick. This is from the write up. If you guys haven't read the write up tonight, do check it out. It's fire. There's a ton of stuff that we're talking about tonight in here, and some very specific examples, including this. The hero's journey itself can be subverted and reimagined for the information age. Instead of vanquishing a foe, the hero might uncover the mechanisms of misinformation, revealing not nefarious masterminds, but the all-too-human failings and systemic flaws that allow conspiracies to flourish. Which is basically back to this exact this piece from the Atlantic. What do you expect from the Atlantic? I wasn't shocked, but I mean, but that's the point, right? So suddenly you co-opt let's say take the hero's journey and you basically cut it in half, and you're like, all right, well, you got there, congratulations, high five, you caught the dirty conspiracy theorists by the ear. Well, that was only half the journey. the rest of the journey is that the dirty conspiracy theorists were actually being subverted in some way, and they're actually there trying to help you or something to that effect, right? And so they get to kind of call the beginning and the ending of it when they want to, and then like I said, steal our storytelling from us. If you haven't read the read up tonight, I highly encourage it. It is very, very good. I was a little bit shocked how it came together as well as it did. Anyway, go ahead, sir. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's perfect. And you were wondering like, so what's the next iteration of the hero? Like, where should we take this hero's journey, kind of? And I'm not sure, but like, kind of get me thinking. So we imagine, or I imagine the hero's journey, or have imagined the hero's journey as a story about a hero. Like a storyteller is telling a story about a classic hero, Odysseus or whoever, Luke. But maybe the hero is the storyteller. Maybe the true hero's journey is to realize that the hero is the one telling the story. That Star Wars is. I just watched Return of the Jedi before I came to work, whatever, and it ends with like 3PO telling the story to the Ewoks, telling the story of Star Wars, and like being treated like a god and everything like that. He was a hero to these people. They went from food to heroes through the power of 3PO's story. And it seemed very, very edited. He was like really hitting plot point after plot point. But like maybe so like you just said the bard. That like the most important thing. So the hero of Book of Eli, Denzel, basically him. Like the story was him as the storyteller. Him keeping the keeper of the story could be also the hero of the story. And like in Game of Thrones, like Sam or whatever is writing the book of writing the story of Game. Like I think those things are cool. Or in Marvel Cosmology, a few years ago they did just like a 5-issue just history, straight history. Like this happened and this happened and this happened. The space wheels were born and then Galactus did this, and just straight up cosmology. And the structure around it was Galactus. It was at the end of this universe, and it's very Matrix style, where it's like the 6th or 7th iteration of the Marvel universe or whatever it is. And in this version, the only two people left are Franklin Richards, son of Reed Richards, and Galactus. And Galactus is telling the story of the universe, which is what I'm reading as the comic, to Franklin Richards. The universe will collapse, and then Galactus will be done, and Franklin Richards will be the new Galactus of this new formed universe, and then we'll have new Eternals and new Celestials, and new One Above All will pop up, but it'll be a new story will start. and Galactus is the new story. I don't know. It's like the gift kind of. So it's just
strap in. Here we go again.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't know. It's kind of yeah, like it seems like the trajectory. Like there's a VR type of stuff in the future and everything, and with the AI more immediately, the ability to we already see it with on-demand TV viewing. Now, like kids today, the idea of channel surfing or being subject to watching something that you don't want to watch is completely foreign to anyone born after like 2000 basically. And so like music, the idea of having to settle for music, or like I watched a documentary on Peacock about the invention of the record. The cassette tape, and the first time it's been available in human history for you to mix and to make a mixtape, for you not to be at the whim of the album. That's an insane thing. That's an insane idea. Think about that. You know,
who made mixtapes? Raise your hand.
I was mixed CDs, but I've only known. I remember huge when I was a freshman in high school, just consuming just all of music, the totality of just downloading everything and just destroying my computer with just wanting to taste everything. And that's what reality is. That's what pop culture has been the last 25 years. It's just like anything you want, completely on demand. Now, story might also be the same thing. Where this AI storytelling is headed is to like movies will eventually be completely rendered for you personally. It's like VR type of thing, but like being rendered like on the go. You're not like plugging into experience. You're plugging into the storyteller, and just like it will I don't know if it's going to read your mind or Neuralink thing or whatever, or you put it in, or it's like the same way your news feed changes based on what you click on or whatever, like based on your emotions will change your experience. So it's like your ability to tell a story will control your own personal reality. So yes, in the media, we're going to become more and more subjected, more and more pocket realities, echo chambers and stuff, VR Matrix nightmare, VR Ready Player One nightmare, but potentially maybe bright side to it, or just like a different form of it, is like the story, your ability to be creative, your ability to tell a story will be you writing and building your own heaven that you can experience. Like the kingdom of heaven is now if you can write it, you know, that like the world will be your like paintbrush, and just your own skills will be the world that you're living in, you know, if you're, you know what I mean? And you can probably have to choose to like plug into the mainstream reality that people are experiencing. Oh, this is the number one reality on iTunes this week. Let me hop into that. It's been experienced by 7 billion people. Or let me just like free world roam around my own experience. Let me just tell my own story, and that like maybe that's where it will go. I don't know. Like it seems like what we do is build technology and tell stories. And I feel like the technology parts, the demiurge, and the storyteller parts, the good guy, you know? And so like let's keep the story stuff going. Technology is good too, don't get me wrong. But like story is important. And that's all I really got for you.
When they come, when those two things come together, it becomes sublime. No, you're spot on here. And I think that's exactly the point. But not only that, so let's say the demiurge in that sense, just real fast. It's fleeting, meaning that we've had these long cycles. You know, we all know if there's a massive, like, sort of uncontrollable, unpredictable solar flare, that hey, congratulations, we're back to the Stone Age. You know what survives? Exactly as you're describing. So the technology goes by the way of the dodo, and we have to rebuild everything from scratch, basically, including a lot of the things that may have been lost. Look how NASA can't get back to the moon, supposedly.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, oh, we don't have any spacesuits. What do you mean you don't have any spacesuits? It's been 60 years. Seriously, you don't have any spacesuits? I mean, this is the type of stuff. But guess we will persist, my friend, telling stories and kind of being the torchbearer in that capacity. At least, hopefully, cross your fingers, we're still around in the event of something like that. But but you're right. I think you're right.
Just to summarize, because there's a lot of rambles, but it's like the psyop, psychological warfare aspect of it is because it's magic, and it's magic is changing the consciousness, changing the filter, so the reality that's then filtered through becomes different. There's people controlling how the collective consciousness is formed is extremely powerful, and it's probably what's happening. And that's why stories are important. Why the satire is scarier. Like bardic magic is scary. Storytelling magic is scarier than like a gypsy curse, you know. And it ripples through. It's like the opposite. It's like you can become immortal through a good story, or you can damn your ancestors through a good story. You know what I mean? Like
all the above.
I'm sure.
All the above. Yeah, exactly.
Great stuff. Thank you, bro.
You're the best. Appreciate you. Have a great night. That's it.
I hope my audio is okay. I just
no, you sound great. When you listen back,
sorry.
You're going to be surprised. You sound great.
Right.
Especially if you're
Thank you, Matt.
Appreciate the call. You're the best, brother. Have a great night. That's Derek the Night Stalker. You know him, you love him. A good friend for a long time. All the rest of that stuff. The official synchro mystic of Troubled Minds. Give him a follow. troubledminds.org/friends. It says follow the Night Stalker here, and he's got a YouTube channel. Check it out. He's got one video. Let's make him the guy with one YouTube video and all the follows. Go leave him a nice comment on his YouTube channel and give him a follow. Amazing stuff. And yeah, I think he's spot on. And I was a little worried tonight was going to fall flat, but you guys are slaying it. So thank you so much for following along with my rambles. And yeah, I don't know, truth, fiction. Yeah, give it to me, because guess what? We can repackage fiction and make it as positive as we needed to, and it's a very important concept. Talking about all kinds of stuff tonight. So we started with the internet, the end of the web as we know it. We got into this sci-fi writer who invented conspiracy theories supposedly in the 1950s from a Atlantic piece, and then we got into the hero's journey. Of course, like I said, notice the hero's journey. Just real quick, hang tight, Matt. Give me 30 seconds. It starts with the ordinary world, goes to the call to adventure, refuse the call, meet the mentor, cross the first threshold, tests, allies, enemies. Notice if you end the story right there, then suddenly this takes on a whole new tack. But it continues. 7, you enter the innermost cave. Dagobah, Luke, going into the cave and facing the shadow Darth Vader, right? Then the ordeal, the reward, the road back, resurrection, and return with the elixir. Whatever the elixir is, of course, that's a variable. But notice at any point in the chain here of the hero's journey, if you break it, and say that's the end, well, it's not a very happy ending. You get it? And the toil and trial of the human experience is abbreviated and co-opted to really say whatever you want it to be. And that's a problem. That's a massive problem. Anyway, a lot of ways to take this. Love to hear your thoughts on this. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Thanks for being patient, my man. Matthew in Colorado. You're on Troubled Minds. How are you, sir? Go right ahead.
I'm doing good. I want to go with the hero's journey individually, and I like the idea of like the collective hero's journey. And I also want to say that great calls from everybody tonight. Just stimulated a lot of thoughts. If I had a notebook and could write fast enough, I would have 20 pages copied down.
We are blessed to have so many amazing and smart friends, as well as you, of course, as part of that group. What you got? Go ahead.
Well, and I've said it before, I never like following Derek. Gosh darn it. But because he gets my mind reeling, and you know, I had some thoughts collected, and then I go off on everything he's saying, and my mind's still reeling, and will probably be reeling till tomorrow after everything he just spit it out so much fire. But back to the hero's journey and the earlier topic about the collective hero's journey, and the question of how do we, and Jorge mentioned this, and other calls and comments you made, how do we implement this? What do we do? What is the pragmatic plan? Okay, and I think it's not actually all that complicated, because we've seen evidence of great social change in the past, and we can, you know, so some of the things I'm going to say, they're not necessarily my thoughts. I'm standing on the shoulders of the giants that have gone before me. But pretty much, you know, those giants will always say the starting point, the place you have to begin from is to create or increase awareness of the problem or issue that you want to address. Okay, if you can't get the collective of society, humanity, or a country to try and change something or try and do something, fix a problem, if they're not aware of what the problem is. So that's the starting point, is to create awareness. Okay, how do we do that? Well, it's been done in the past by, you know, some things like protests, uh, uh, free speech, making a stink of things, uh, the right of assembly, and consider the civil rights movement. I mean, they had a huge social issue. It wasn't right. It wasn't just. They wanted to change it. What did they do? They marched. They protest. Uh, uh, they blocked bridges. And what ended up happening? They ended up with 1 million people in Washington, D.C., right? And they ended up creating this great social movement that was so powerful that the federal government, had to come around to giving, the civil rights legislation and adopting it into law and forever changing our country. Okay, so this was the power of the people, and the people did it by, you know, uh, speaking out, and that speaking out creates the awareness and brings the attention to the problem. And then that has to, of course, translate into action. So you have to have an action plan. And some of the most effective ones from like the civil rights movement, incredibly effective. Okay, let's take the Vietnam War protests and with the college campuses and everything like that. That was a huge part of ending the war in Vietnam and actually making it so Lyndon Johnson didn't even seek re-election. He just like tapped out. He's like, yeah, I screwed the pooch here. It was a screwed up war. I got shut down, and Tonkin happened, and so uh, when you can create the awareness and then the movement, you can affect an incredible, social change, political change, cultural change. All right. And that's done through the action. And so, those two examples have been done by the mobilization of people, exercising right of assembly, free speech, protesting, seeking redress from the government, which followed from increasing awareness of the problem. And people might just spontaneously, by watching news or world events or whatever, become aware of the problem. But that's something we can all do. We can use the power of the internet. Now, listen, during Vietnam, okay, and during the civil rights movement, they didn't even have they didn't have social media. They couldn't communicate with each other. They couldn't put out things to do, flash mobs and advertise where they were going to be. Heck no, they were using telephones. They were using
yeah, like invisible ink. Invisible ink. I mean, I'm joking, of course, but yeah, it was wild. It was wild the things that they had to do to. Yeah.
They were printing things out on paper and making pamphlets and hanging up them on the streets and tagging them to telephone poles and stuff like that. I mean, they were low tech and they accomplished these enormous things. And we have the internet, god dang it, people. We have the internet. We have so much more power and ability to do these same great social changes and political changes. And one of the first things I would go after is war. I changed the only time since I put up a profile picture thing, on Facebook, which was, you couldn't really see me except in the far distance sitting on a pyramid in Mexico. So you couldn't see my face or anything. But the only time I've ever changed it, I didn't go with any of the other fads when people changed it to some flag or something or whatever. I just recently changed it to one of those circles, a red circle with a line across it, meaning no, and in the middle it says war. And so now my Facebook, avatar thing is no war. And that's a hold on a second.
No problem. We're here with Matt in Colorado talking all kinds of things. Wait,
that's a big issue for me. That is something that is, when you talk about a crime against humanity, it doesn't just mean it's a crime against all of the humans that are being affected directly by that crime. It means a human like me, that when I witness that crime, Michael, when I witness wars, when I witness the atrocities, it's a crime against me too. It hurts my heart. It hurts me as a person of conscience and makes me sad. And it makes me depressed. And it makes me go, what the heck are these crazy people doing? These psychopaths. And I just think, war is one of the most atrocious, abhorrent, horrible things in the world. And I think that should be the first problem that we should tackle. And then when when there's no more war and we're all sitting around singing Kumbaya, then I think we can tackle, the environment. Because maybe we have 50 years to deal with that, or maybe it's an issue, maybe it's not an issue, and maybe there's different solutions, whatever. I'm not going to go into that. But I'm just saying, and so step one, increase awareness. Step two, take action. And step three, utilizing assembly, freedom of speech, right to protest, but then realize in those historic examples, what did it take? It took a plan. Okay, let's have a march. Let's get 1 million people here. Let's get 1 million people there. Let's, you got to have a plan. You got to have some people organizing it. You got to put the word out, etc. And then when you get enough people, the politicians and the warmongers, neocons, etc., then they have to sit up and take notice and go, I'm not going to get reelected. I need to do what the people want me to do. And that's exercising the power of the people, the voice of the people. But the people have to stand up and raise their voice. And so when you ask the question, what do we do? That's the basic formula. I didn't, like I said, originally, I didn't invent this formula. I'm standing on the shoulders of the giants and the history of how this has been done successfully in the past.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
Just real quick on that. I think we've come to a crossroads, I believe. And where old ways are tried and true, I think in a digital age, things have changed incredibly. And so I'm not so sure that's as effective as it used to be. And I'm not undermining the message. I'm saying that we need to adapt. We need to be better. We need to understand what's being used against us and then be able to counter those things. And specifically, you've heard fusion GPS, you've heard, scraping metadata for voters and things like this, and then coming at them with, a particular propaganda, which again, built the Blue Anon and the QAnon movements, which are again, equally grotesque and stupid. And just, again, it's problematic. Okay. And so my point there, and just kind of interjecting and bringing that up, is I think with these tools changing so incredibly quickly, we have to be fast on our feet and fast in our minds and understand that just because something may have worked in 1965, it's not going to work in 2025. Okay. And that's really part of the discussion tonight as well. And where my mind's at, because I get it. 1776 was built on the back of the printing press. Okay. Very low tech. Except, right, it's not 1776 anymore. It's not 1965 anymore. As you described very smartly, we have the internet. And so there are new ways. We need to find them. We definitely need to find them. But of course, getting the word out and leading with, peaceful messages and, not let's not take up arms for random reasons, for ideological reasons. It's the dumbest thing ever. And it's what's been happening to us forever. And anyway, just want to interject the digital version of this, which brings us back to where we started. Go ahead. What you got?
Well, I agree 100%. And I meant to, if I didn't get the point across, I meant to say we need to utilize the modern technology. We need to utilize the power of the internet. We need to incorporate that tool. We need to adapt ourselves. We need to develop strategies of how to do that, and even sort of technologies or even phone apps. I mean, come on, it's so easy to write a phone app these days. And so what I'm visualizing is more like a hybrid, that the internet can be used for attention aspect of what I talked about. It can be used for the organization aspect. Like I said, if you're doing a flash mob, and so you send out a like group text message that goes out to organize everything, like that, or emails or websites or etc. for a protest or whatever. So you do like a hybrid and a combination of the two. And so yes, you have to adapt and you have to take advantage of the modern technology and the tools that are available, because of course they're, like you said, very rightly pointed out, they're being used against us. So what you have to do is turn the tables and say, how can we use that against them, or how can we use that for us, would perhaps be a better way to say it.
Yeah. One of the crazy parts about social media in general too is we know there's algorithmic tinkering under the hood ideologically, and some things get boosted while other things get kind of suppressed. But also the almighty dollar. So we're fighting against corporations that are pressing these ideological things, and they're pumping dollars into it. And so does the question becomes, on these platforms where the dollar rules, can grassroots actually prevail? And I'm not so sure, to be honest. I think there has to be other ways, even low-tech ways, as you're describing. So I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but only because I know that, how about this? I have a massive hunch that there's no such thing as a grassroots movement is the word, anymore. Meaning digitally. I think it's been manipulated by money. I think that people show up magically with signs, which is like, where'd you get those signs, bro? The thing just hit, like it's been pre-planned and, funded, and the social media boosted, and I don't know, man. I think it's complicated, and I think just we have to adapt and overcome. And there's the Marine thing I was looking for. Adapt and overcome. I was looking for that earlier. But anyway, so back to the storytelling. Let's bring it back to that if you can. Regarding this, they've co-opted storytelling against us. Back to this this one article. If this is not your shtick, that's cool. But doesn't it feel strange that we're looking at this thing from the Atlantic, and it's like, how sci-fi inspired conspiracy theory? Well, is that true? 1950s conspiracy theory is new? Seems like a political hack job to me. But there is some truth to this, in my opinion, with the Trojan horse of telling our stories against us. And again, the fractured hero's journey, and being like, well, ends at step 5. You lose. Congratulations. Get in line.
Yeah, and I think Jorge did an excellent job of covering that and getting into that. And when you have, and he used the word narrative, and so that relates to story. But when you hear the word narrative, hopefully what comes up into your mind is a similar word like spin doctoring. So it's a story, but it's a story with a particular intent. It's a story with a particular slant. It's a story with a particular goal or target that is intended to manipulate your mind and your perception of reality, and to either constrain it, divert it away from the truth, or and probably point it away to some other perhaps fictional or distorted thing. And that is the power of storytelling. And Derek, just awesome, wonderful comments. I appreciated what he read at the very end part about the power of writing. And because writing is basically written stories. and how that has the power to shape consciousness. Now, if we combine the two, then we come up with stories and writing have the power to shape consciousness. Well, how do we write today? Michael, when's the last time, you took out a piece of paper and a pen and wrote a letter to somebody and stuffed it in an envelope, a family member or something like that? So we don't write in that way these days. It was incredibly powerful back then, but like we were just saying, the technology has changed. So if we want to take the power of writing to actually change consciousness and affect society, we have to utilize the current writing tools, which are things like social media, but it's not limited to social media, because you can have websites, you can have emails, and you can, buy things that'll send out 50,000 emails or hundreds of thousands of emails, and people can forward emails. We still have, that kind of technology. It's still laying around. It's still useful, and that can't be censored, like you were talking about, and like you were talking about the throttling and false grassroots movements. I definitely think that occurs, but you can have legitimate ones using those platforms.
It's possible. We just have to be able to sort of be in control of the list, as you say. And the list, by the way, you can buy email lists willy-nilly these days and be like, oh, I want to get my message out to 10,000 people. Here's the price. What's your niche? Political lefty. Here you go. Bing. You didn't know. You buy it and then you can send the emails. It's crazy the world we live in, and how quickly money talks, of course, as it always has.
Right. And then we have the other thing, the probably I would say one of the most innovative, newest, and most powerful thing is podcasts and digital broadcasting, because it's very different, very, very different than social media. And it's very different than all the other forms of communication that we've talked about. And so then when you get, there's podcasts that'll get, 9 million views. Well, so this is one person speaking orally. Okay. It's recorded. It can be played at any time. It can be played months later, years later, whatever. And it's reaching millions of people, getting a message out. Now, that's not social media. And there's, we've got some good podcasting systems that, don't really censor or can't be taken down. Probably, fewer, and we've got some issues there, but there's new up and comings and stuff like that. But that's a whole other aspect of communication, and it's almost a way to replace or improve on writing. And one of the reasons is, like you said, a lot of people don't read anymore. They don't buy books. They don't read books. I've read statistics that as an author and a writer just make me cry of like 50% of people haven't read a book in the last year. It's just ridiculous. People don't read. So, but people will listen. They can listen to a podcast. And if you think probably on average, the average American has a 5th grade reading level. So you can't communicate very complex ideas and use very good language and stuff like that. Or people may not even inherently process, be able to read as well as they can listen. And so when you have a podcast, when you have verbal oral communication, people can understand and process the information better. And you can pack a ton of it in there, and you can do it quickly. You can pack as much information into 5 podcasts as would take me a year to put into a book, and it's available immediately, and it's available to millions of people. So I think raising awareness, getting the things out there, taking the advantage of the tools, and then maximizing that strategically, knowing what we're up against, and then converting that to actions, whether they be maybe even a petition, maybe they're a protest, maybe they're um, steering people around to throw the bums out and vote people out of office, or whatever it is. you know, uh, I think that is, when the question was raised, what do we do about it? How do we affect change? Those are, some of the answers that occur in my rather dense head.
Yeah, hardly dense, amazing stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot here, and we'll I think this is something we need to talk about more. Honestly, it is, it's very troubled mindsy, but it's also sometimes, depending on who you ask, some people be like, I'm not into this. It's whatever, big deal, whatever, whoop, whoop, digital stuff. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. I'm not so sure. Think about this, just real quick before you go. SaveWisdom.org is a website put together by Brian Romilly, who I talk about fondly and often, because if you go check out his work on Twitter X, you will find he's very much one of us. He's considering that the old ways should not be thrown away. He's dumpster diving and pulling, old tapes and training his AI on stuff that has been cast aside. And so like this is the type of guy that he is. He's like, no. This is like, it's garbage to somebody, but to the rest of humanity, this is wisdom. This is some sort of knowledge that needs to be passed forward. And we're training AI on like a fastly shrinking internet. So he gets it. He gets it. And before you go, I want to point this out. If you've never seen this, Matt, this is incredible. And I think you would be a prime candidate, as all humans, but you being a magnificent friend and a great contributor, and all the great ideas you pour into this, I think you need to pour it into perpetuity. He calls this Save Wisdom. All human wisdom is worth saving. And there's basically 1,000 words to save wisdom question. It's 1,000 questions. And basically, you're supposed to read the questions and record them on an audio file. And you don't have to do it in one sitting. You just read the question, and then you tell your answer. And then, you do 3 or 4 or 5, and then hit pause, and then come back at question 7 or something and continue. And basically, this is taking what you believe, of course, in that particular moment, which, again, you're going to learn, you're going to change, you're going to grow over the days and months and years. We're still alive, all the rest of that. However, it's better than nothing. Like ideally we would sort of download our collective wisdom on our deathbed, or our last lucid moment type of thing. But, in this case, we'll take what we can get, because if we don't do something, all of this is going to be lost. And this is something he's been working on. It's called SaveWisdom.org. It's 1,000 questions. You just record it into an audio file. And I'm not sure where this is going to go in the next, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But I have a hunch this is going to be incredibly invaluable, because I wish this was around 20 or 30 years ago. I wish I had thought of this, and I had, my passed on grandparents able to tell us the wisdom that has been lost because it wasn't able to be written in a book for various reasons. It wasn't able to be deposited on the internet, all the rest of this stuff. But anyway, I'm just saying, each and every one of you has a unique wisdom base that needs to press forward and needs to survive. And this is a good way to do it. SaveWisdom.org. Any take on that? I'll send you the link directly. It's easy to remember, but I'll send it to you in the DM. Anything on that before we move on? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say send it to me in the DM, and I think it's an absolutely brilliant idea. I will totally do it, and that brings up thoughts I had earlier in the show, and but it reminded me of it, and the one is with the diminishing and deletion of data and stuff like that. I have, Michael, so many thousands of documents stored on my hard drive. and things I've collected off the internet. And a lot of times I would go to websites, and instead of, if it was what I considered important information, I didn't, store a hyperlink and bookmark the page. I said file save as HTML. Okay. And I saved, the text to a local document on my computer. And I have thousands of documents. I actually wrote a program in C++ that will scan through text documents on my computer to where I could type in, a phrase or a person or something like that, and it will go through and open up all my text files and scan for that phrase or that person's name or that event. And then when it finds it, it would, back up 5 sentences and go forward 5 sentences and give me a paragraph and give me the file name so I could automatically like find anything on my computer.
Which is a primitive local AI, which is incredible.
Right. So I had my own personal database of stuff I've collected, for going on 3 decades off the internet. But the basic point being, and that was what, Joe in Florida that brought that up about saving files locally.
I can't remember. Let's say yes, yeah. just for sake of me trying to untangle it in my brain.
Yeah, top of the show. So that is a good strategy to like save things locally to your hard drive. And I was involved in I'm just going to say a powerful semi political organization that I'm not going to name many years ago. So
okay.
15 years ago. And the founder of the organization, he recommended that exact thing. He said, all the stuff we have available, you need to on our website. It's gonna disappear someday. He's like, you need to download it to your personal computer and save it on your hard drive. Not only that, you need to back it up.
Yeah, multiple backups. Yep. Backups. Yep, it's the only way to do it. Real quick, held a thought. I just shout out before he leaves. Tom L over on Twitter X says, "Nice, thank you for sharing. I'm the same way. I have a huge collection. I want to do this." So, yeah, savewisdom.org is where you want to go find that. Sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
And he said, "Yeah, so you want to have on 2 devices, and not only that, print out a hard copy or 2, so you can give it to somebody else or have it, So he wanted to preserve his whole organization and all the information that he was putting out there. And then my final thought before I go, really cool thing. I don't know if you've ever heard about it or used it. Have you ever heard about or used the Wayback Machine?
Yeah, for sure. All the time, matter of fact, because there's a lot of information I'm trying to go back and find, and I cannot because it's been deleted, and I find it there. You'll find, actually, if you go back to the origination of Troubled Minds 6 years ago, a lot of the links we used early on were from that because we just couldn't find them anywhere else. They'd been taken down. So yeah, Wayback Machine is a good friend of mine for a long time, for sure.
Right. So just for everybody else listening out there, the Wayback Machine is a website that you can go to. And what they've done is they have basically taken snapshots and stored websites throughout over the years, over the decades. And so you can go back and going to their site, you could go back and see a website how it existed, 2 years ago or 5 years ago. And so when sometimes politicians will put up stuff on their website and then they get in trouble or it doesn't come out favorably and they delete stories. Well, you can go to the Wayback Machine and say, yeah, what did it say 3 months ago? And so you can get that information. Or websites that no longer exist, and go back and see the Art Bell website, what it looked like in 2010, stuff like that. So a lot of this, which was a big part of the show at the beginning, was about the deleting the content. Thank God we have guys like that have been preserving that content. And, how much of that done? How many people are like that? Will they be able to survive? Will you still be able to access the Wayback Machine, 10 years from now? That I don't know. But people don't know about that. I just wanted to make them aware of it.
Yeah, and real quick, so final thought here on your call. I've got the thing up. I'll include it in the description down below, the troubledminds.org website, which is our website. You can see all the different changes that have been made over the years. It's every time there's a major change happening, it'll show up on here, and you can kind of click on the different dates. It's pretty cool. But I'm noticing 2013, I guess somebody had the troubledminds.org domain, and there was something there. I guess they let it go, and I snapped it up later. But anyway, the funniest part about the Wayback Machine, what was it? Oh man, I lost it. I'll drop it later when it comes to mind. But there was something amazing about the Wayback Machine that I cannot remember, and I was going to tell it to you, Matt, because I think you'd really enjoy it. But I forgot. I forgot.
It happens to the best of us, buddy.
Yes, it is.
On and remember what I said, that I think the newest, latest, and greatest and most powerful tool that we have are podcasts, and that's what you're doing. So you're right in there, and we're right in there, and I think if we all put our heads together and are strategic in how we implement, utilize, strategize modern communication technology with the tried and true mechanisms for social change of creating an attention and awareness, coming up with an action plan, and then taking action that is cannot be ignored by the powers that be, is how we actualize social change, political change, and accomplish things such that these negative conspiracy things don't become our reality and future, or the ones that already are, we get rid of them.
Amen. Well said. Well said. Always a pleasure. You were incredible as always. Go check out savewisdom.org. It's right down your alley. And you start doing that, I'm going to start doing that. Everybody should start doing that. You never know what tomorrow brings if we don't put our wisdom out there and upload it and get it to the right hands. What are we doing? What are we doing? We've lived the whole life. We've spun off the moral coil, and we haven't passed on what's necessary and important. We're doing not just ourselves, and I think humanity a large disservice. You're the best, brother. Appreciate you very much, and thanks for always being a good friend and a part of this. And we'll talk to you soon. Have a great night.
All right. Well, thank you, and everybody can support the program, sub up on Rockfin, buy Mike a cup of coffee, get a baseball cap or a T-shirt, and you're the best, buddy. Have a good night.
You as well. Thank you very much. Appreciate the plug, which I will reciprocate. Check out Matt's book and multiple books. He's writing more as well. troubledminds.org/friends. It says Matthew's book here, or Matko's book. Check it out. There's a coupon code down there for 80% off for Troubled Minds listeners. Go check it out. You could do far worse by tuning into the Kardashians' asses than reading Matthew's book, because as you can tell, he's a wise dude. Been in this game for quite a long time, longer than I have. The consciousness game and the idea of whatever the hell's happening around us. So go give him a purchase over there, and thank you for all the amazing ideas. You're incredible. Real quick on this, I wanted to point out. So if you go to what is this? So back to 2013. So troubledminds.org is the domain name that we got in 2018 to do this show. All right. And you can see again over on the right side on this, if you're watching on the screen, there's all the different changes that this website has gone through over the years, right? But if you go back to 2013, when somebody had this, there's something called Welcome to the U.S. PETABOX. What is this? PETABOX, and they put it on troubledminds.org. What the fuck? What the ever loving fuck is this? I don't really know, but yeah, I'm looking at this and going, well. I mean, I guess 2013 websites were still hard, but what's a PETABOX? PETABOX. Welcome to the U.S. PETABOX. Anyway, whatevs. Super funny. Web.archive.org. You can check that stuff out. It's there for all websites, which is incredible and amazing. And yada, yada. Here we are talking about all kinds of wild stuff by Dark and Night. What do you know about this? One quick 1 minute break. I'm just going to grab another cold one and we'll wrap this up. So we're gonna take a quick 1 minute commercial. We got Joe in Florida coming back, and your calls as well if you guys have anything to add to this. We are talking a decay of can I say it? A decay of distribute. I can't say it. Whatever that says on the screen there. There you go. Recursive realities and the collective hero. And basically, the internet is being deleted. And what do we do? Is there something we can do about this? And I think there are things, but if we're not thinking about them, this is going to happen faster than we ever dreamed. Because think about how fast you can delete data. Like creating data, putting data up takes forever. Deleting data is like, boom, beep, beep, boop, boop, gone. And this is what's happening because they don't need it anymore. They've trained their AIs on this stuff, and they have the massive petaflops necessary to handle this data in perpetuity with backups and backups and backups. So they don't need to allow us, the internet, to continue doing this or anything else, which is, yeah, not the best. In any case, love to hear your thoughts. We got Joe in Florida coming back for a moment, and of course you as well. Don't go anywhere. More Troubled Minds coming up, and about 30 minutes left on the show. So if you have anything you want to add, love to hear your thoughts. And let's do this. Let's get a quick word from our good buddy, the mighty Rohan, with, as I say, eternal inspiration from the great beyond. Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. Do not go anywhere. 1 minute break. We got Joe in Florida and your calls as well.
If you're struggling with thoughts of suicide, you're not alone. Whether you're in the US, Canada, the UK, or the EU, help is available. Suicide is a permanent solution to temporary problems. Reaching out is a sign of strength. Call now. If you or someone you know is considering suicide, please reach out for help. In the United States, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. In Canada, call the Canada Suicide Prevention Service at 1-833-456-4566. In the United Kingdom, call the Samaritans at 116-123. For services worldwide, go to troubledminds.org/help. Trained counselors are available 24/7 to provide free and confidential support. Remember, your life matters. You are valued, you are important, and you are not alone. There is help available. Please reach out and take the first step towards healing.
Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That is KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Tonight we're taking your calls as we discuss, a decay of distributed knowledge. There, I can say it. I proved it. Recursive realities and the collective hero. Now look, a lot of things happening on the internet, and they're deleting it faster than we can put information up, which is, just like the birth rate, something very concerning, okay? Meaning that an entire generation has put their information up on the interwebs, and now the interwebs is shrinking. We were saying this 5 or 6 years ago, Frank and I, when we first started Troubled Minds, we were talking about this. At least, let's say conceptually. We weren't sure data-wise, but it sure felt like the internet itself was shrinking because of the information that used to be available that was no longer available today. Now, in the world of AI, why I'm calling this recursive realities, and of course, regressive internets, it seems like, the magic prompt is going to be great. You can type in whatever and the magic oracle will tell you whatever you want. But as you know, as you're very aware, because you're a very smart person, because you're listening to Troubled Minds, you understand that there's no such thing as a singular reality. Everybody has their own reality, at least partially, okay? And so to take one singular prompt and ask one singular question and get one singular answer is very problematic. Yeah, you see what I mean? And this is happening faster than we know what to do with. SaveWisdom.org, check it out. Again, look, Brian Romley doesn't pay me to say this. I believe in the work he's doing, and I think he's a visionary and a pioneer in this aspect. And if we don't do this, if we don't get on this type of stuff now, I think we have a massive problem in the future, and we need to get on this. Love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Let's go back to Joe. Joe in Florida. You're on Troubled Minds. What's your brother? Go right ahead.
So I apologize for coming in back at the end, but hearing Matthew talk, it kind of hit me with all the calls. We are talking about keeping this information or saving this wisdom, assuming we as human beings can keep our faculties. Why do I say that? Well, A, as a funeral director, B, you can look it up. Dementia rates are going up, and so is Alzheimer's. Which made me think about this weekend. If you did not read the article, there were 2 deer hunters that died of Crutchfield-Jacob. I have talked about it at length on this show. It is a zombie. It is the literal zombie disease, not a fungus, but it's a protein that cannot be killed. It stays in the dirt. There is something going on right now in the country that they've kept a low key on called deer wasting disease. I suggest you read an article about it. An article a few days ago talked about 2 deer hunters that ate tainted meat and they died of Crutchfield-Jacob. Lo and behold, a few days later, probably yesterday, article comes out that's from the CDC saying that these 2 hunters, their deaths were unrelated. And I want to say it happened in 2022, that it was unrelated to this deer meat that they ate. Okay. And then you got to say to yourself, this is where the conspiracy takes place. You got to say to yourself, Crutchfield-Jacob disease is rare to begin with. You could get it from tainted meat. We've seen it in mad cow. And I'll go back to that in a second, because I've said what I'm going to say. I've said it in the show previously, maybe a year or 2 ago. But what are the chances that 2 of these guys would get it? And in the newer article, they were basically trying to sound like calm down fears, but they did admit that where this deer was hunted, that particular population was suffering from deer wasting disease, which is that version of mad cow disease. Okay. And I just kind of think to myself, kind of nefariously, if I had the ability to manipulate a prion or protein, it cannot be cooked out of meat. It cannot be pretty much killed because it's already dead. Who knows if, and I've said it almost exactly like this before, I don't know what show it was we talked about, but let's say it's in a serial number for a certain segment of the population where it's in the meat, whether it's at McDonald's, whether it's in the grocery store. And they know that since it's a little bit manipulated, and maybe we could blame some tech giant that does this, that we know has been buying up farmland, whose name won't be mentioned, but we can maybe look at that. And again, I'm not prescribing to any of this. This is just devil's advocate, hypothetical, scary. But let's just say it's in the supply. And they know that this attenuated or tuned up version might take 5 or 10 years to start making people slip in their mind. And within those 5 or 10 years, they start taking more things out of the internet, doing what we've been talking about this whole show. Then you would literally have gridlock. You'd have walking dementia in our flesh suits. You'd have useless information, even more gibberish. We would go back to gibberish. I mean, it would be sick to even think about it. I'm trying to go down this road right now while I'm talking to you.
It's like The Walking Dead. Like The Walking Dead.
We would have a society of gibberish. And I'll give you another example. What happens if we lose GPS? Like, I literally know how to go to work, the ice rink, and the club. Okay? And maybe a strip club, and I could come home if my wife doesn't kick me out. No lap dances. But anyway, if I lose GPS, I have no clue where I'm going. Right? So, it's a great show, but this just hit me at the end. And to me, it's a scary thought, because I have been thinking about it this weekend. I just had some steaks tonight, and I like a medium, you know, and I'm eating them, and I'm like, well, you know what? And I'm bad with names. I mean, literally, I've always been bad with names. As a funeral director, I get by because of personality and everything else, but I am just not good with names, never have been. But it's a scary thought. And I'll tell you, I'm getting older now, but now that I've started DJing again here and there, that seems to help my memory remember bands. Or if I can't remember a band, I can remember a beat, and I could say this song is going to mix well with this song, But also from a funeral director standpoint, I see more and more people with Alzheimer's and with dementia. Okay? And it's sad. It's sad. So think about the world as a whole. If certain segments of the population were targeted, A, we would never know because we might be the dumb ones. But if the world was a brain and parts of that brain were stroking out, it would affect the collective. And the education level as a whole would drop.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're not the dumb ones. I just have a feeling. I'm just saying.
No, but think about it like this. I mean, my friend had a neighbor. We've also heard about it. But he had a neighbor that was kind of losing it. And he came out with guns. So what's the one thing we all have that not a lot of the other countries do have?
Pew, pew.
Pew, pew. So yeah, we're not the dumb ones. You could say that. But we've seen some pretty dumb things from our leaders on both sides.
That's a fact.
Right?
There's no doubt.
And we
no
have,
doubt.
It's a total fact. And we have dementia and we literally have people that lock up like they're debugging on camera. Right? So we have people that are there now that probably cannot suck enough blood or whatever they're doing. I don't prescribe to that either. I don't want to believe that, but let's just say they can't, they just can't keep their faculties in check because of their age. And I don't mean that as age discrimination, but I have to ask myself, when I'm 65 or 67 or 85, whatever they're going to raise it to, goddamn right I want to retire. Why do I want to stay doing something? But these people that are leading us are already dementia patients, and we are all heading there collectively. Whether we like it or not, health-wise or not, if we follow what they say, we're just going to get our IQ dumbed down. I will leave you with that terrible apocalyptic thought, as opposed to the one that I tried to be positive earlier. But hearing Matthew and all the other conversation, it just hit me. We are talking about this assuming we as human beings keep our health. And it may not just be dementia. Okay, we want to keep our health, whatever that is, and we know that we don't even have that in this country. So,
the doom is nigh. Before you go, saying our politicians are dumb, I'm with you. Michael Tracy just tweeted this yesterday or today. I think I'm back to loathing Democrats and Republicans with equal vigor, not out of some contrived false equivalency, but because they both genuinely possess equally loathsome traits. Yep, good, confirmed. He's spot on with that. Dear God, it's the truth.
I have a sticker that a friend of mine made for me. It's sitting on the old hard drive on my old computer. I'll see if I can dig it out. But the expression that I had on, and I should have made it for bumper stickers, I still should. It's toe the party line, leave the country behind. It's got the donkey and the elephant basically just ripping the flag apart.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be a good marketing, like guerrilla marketing type of campaign, but never did anything with it because that was the last time. But maybe we should do something with it now.
Look, I like to, before you go, I like to consider myself a smart guy, but I came onto this one late, to be perfectly honest. Meaning that I used to think 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 years ago that, kind of calling out, what as you see it and the dumbness happening with legislation and politics and stuff was valuable to people. I used to think that. And now I understand that it's not about any of that. It's about backing a party up. Once you back a party up, you've tribed up. And once you've tribed up, it's easy to get funded. And once it's easy to get funded, you're sort of pressed to the forefront of the mouthpieces, and you know what I mean. So it's like it came on me late. I do have my dumb moments, but I used to think that kind of calling that stuff out had value. It doesn't have. I mean, it has human value. But it doesn't have monetary value. Nobody wants to hear that shit. Meaning, if you had the most perfectly executed show taking apart both the Democrats and the Republicans all the time, neither one of them would fund you. There you go.
You're exactly right. But I mean, if we look at shows and it's painful, because I have never really watched a lot of South Park and all the commentary. But you're exactly right. And the thing is when I watch those shows, Jon Stewart being one of them, South Park being another, I will laugh at things, but sometimes I'll get angry because I'm saying to myself, you know, the frog in the pot. We're laughing at this. But what are we doing when the show is over to change things? We're not doing anything. We've got to go to work. We can't even protest. All right? They're taking that away. So, whatever. No, that's good. You know, I've got a bad day coming into work tomorrow. So why not leave it on a depressed end?
Positive energy your way. Positive energy your way, my friend.
You know what? Positive energy. All I know is, you know, if I get dementia, when I get my Social Security check, put me in my members only jacket, take me to the strip club on the day shift, and I'll just forget everybody's name. I don't even care. Have a good night.
You're the best. Appreciate you very much. That's Joe in Florida. Good friend for a long time, and always amazing thoughts. This is again the lifeblood of what this has always been. Troubled Minds. We had a dream when we began this, and it has been achieved by meeting amazing people with amazing thoughts, and being able to look at the world from different walks of life and different ideas in different ways, and kind of come together in a weird, bizarre ass space that we're doing tonight. There you go. Every night, many nights for years into the past. Look, I don't know. Answers few, questions many, as I always say, and that's the problem here. It's that notice, as I just said there, the dumb me didn't ever recognize that if you don't back somebody up, you're not going to get funded. And so all the shills out there that are like, yo, red, yo, blue, they're getting funded by those assholes. Look at those stupid kids on TikTok, doing like, you know what I mean? I say stupid in the nicest way, only because they're actually, let me reverse that. Look at those smart kids on TikTok. They're getting paid to be political shills. Look at all those smart kids on TikTok doing what they do, right? They're like, oh, blah, 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 blah. They're like raging on Joe Biden or they're raging on Donald Trump. Either way, right? Yep. Either way, they're getting paid. They're getting paid. Liars for hire, right? It's grotesque. Anyway, we got a few minutes left. If you got time for you, if you got time for us, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. I don't know. A lot of ways to look at this. Real quick on this. I see. Jay, hang tight, Jay. We'll get you in just a sec. Jay, New York coming up. Now here's the point of this. What I wanted to come around to full circle. Now, we started with the internet, the end of the web as we know it, because, of course, data is being deleted faster than it's being put up on the interwebs, right? Fine. We know that. But this other thing popped, which was from a piece from The Atlantic talking about the sci-fi writer who invented conspiracy theory. I mean, that's obviously horseshit. 1950, whatever, was not when the conspiracy was invented. That's dumb. That's really dumb. But it does have its ideological bend in this piece because it is from The Atlantic, as you would expect. But it got me thinking about storytelling and hijacking storytelling as sort of a Trojan horse aspect. And as we were talking about with Night Stalker there, that the storytelling is fundamentally human. And so by them hijacking these stories, because of course it all goes back to one man in the 1950s, the conspiracy theory, they say, a military intelligence expert in psychological warfare. And where's the tweet? I pulled it out. This is important to part of this. Let's see. It says this. So his essential insight was that the most effective psychological warfare is storytelling. Linebarger saw psyops as an emotionally intense, persuasive form of fiction. And to him, no genre engaged people's imagination better than science fiction. Oh, seems fine, right? It seems fine. And that's exactly the point. There's nothing more human than storytelling. And by them hijacking science fiction, which gets the most engagement, of course, in a technological era and accelerating in that direction, you see what I mean. This is the most insidious Trojan horse that's ever been used against us. And here we are. Here we are, possessing the same counter weapon, dare I say. It's what Troubled Minds has always been. But it dawned on me when I was reading this. I was like, wait, what? Seriously? So sci-fi has been weaponized and even cited as this Atlantic piece, which, lol, the Atlantic, but used as a Trojan horse to manipulate us. Storytelling. That would be comics. That would be, again, going back to something like this, if you guys have seen this or not seen this, going back to this, there's a film that just came out recently called Civil War. You guys seen this? Predictive programming of sorts, which is again the most insidious version of stealing the human heritage of storytelling and the oral tradition going back thousands of years for propaganda. By reframing all this, just so everybody's clear here, by using the hero's journey and fracturing it at a point that is convenient to the narrative. Get it? Hero's journey, 12 steps. Well, if you break it off at step 6 or step 7, you write your own narrative. The stories become stunted, not full. There is no human hero. There is the hero that they tell us it is, whatever that means. You get what I mean? I hope you do. Anyway, and so back to this Civil War bit. Predictive programming. Check this out. So Civil War is a dystopian war film from 2024. This is this year. I haven't seen it. It follows a team of journalists traveling across the United States during the Civil War fought during an authoritarian federal government and several regional factions. The cast, blah, blah, blah. The plot, it's journalists running across, and look at this. They've got a United States fractured. Loyalist states, Western forces, the Florida Alliance, the New People's Army. Yeah, right? This is the storytelling they're using against us. And guess what happens? You guys want a spoiler? All right, earmuffs for 30 seconds for the spoiler. At the end of the movie, they track down the president of the United States and they execute him. In the movie. I have to say in the movie or we're going to get taken down from the internet and the FBI or CIA is going to visit me. In this movie. Okay, spoiler alerts over. Okay? Now look, if this isn't predictive programming, if this isn't using storytelling as a weapon against us for political purposes, I don't know what is. I do not know what is. I'm just saying. I haven't seen this. I'm not going to go see this. No thanks. You can stuff it up your ass. Take your budget. I hope you lose money. Stop with these narratives and stop trying to make us believe we need to murder each other. Stop it. Stop it. There are many stories that fulfill the hero cycle that don't end with the death of the president. You get what I'm saying? Stop it. Stop it. 702-957-1037. All that stuff I just said, YouTube censors, is from a movie. It's a movie called, you have to say this or they're going to take you down. The movie is called Civil War. It was produced in 2024 and it is in theaters right freaking now. Okay? These are not me saying provocative things. I'm telling you the plot of this stupid movie. You got it? You get it? Surely they couldn't have had Godzilla in this or something fun and entertaining. No. No. Nope. Let's go to Jay in New York. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. That was where I wanted to get to tonight, was to this Civil War movie. And as part of weaponizing storytelling against us and using it to stunt the human aspect of the hero's journey. Jay in New York, what's up, my brother? You're on Troubled Minds. How are you? Go right ahead, sir.
I'm doing fine, Mike. Wow, we went a long way around the barn on the whole thing today, didn't we?
You bet your bippy. Sometimes that's the way you got to do it.
That's cool. It's very cool that happens that way. Well, Derek was telling a story, and it made me think of something that I used to do when I was a little kid. That the older kid would teach you how to tie a knot and then tell you a story about something different when it was teaching you how to tie a knot. And you'd have, I don't know, a yard, maybe 2 yards of rope with you. And you'd tie all the different knots in it while he told you the story. The secret to the knots is that when you untied the knot, you told the story to somebody else where you showed them how to tie the knot backwards. Is that making any sense with you, Mike?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. It is it's the hero's journey and in reverse, showing you how we got here. Yeah, I follow you 100%. And but it is wisdom. It is imparting wisdom, as we've always said. As you've done quite a bit. Again, the Eagle Scout stuff. You've been a scout leader for a long time. All the rest of that stuff. Like there's a lot of real value that cascades into the world with stuff like that. And again, bringing in the not aspect of it. It seems simple. It seems trivial to the, let's say, uninitiated in terms of what it means to cascade ideas, the butterfly effect of positivity out there. But not to me,
but that timberline hitch might be the story of, crop rotation. Don't plant your corn in the same spot every year, man. That's a bad idea. But that's how you learned how to tie the timberline hitch.
Yeah.
So when someone was telling you that other story, so every time you tell the story of crops, you remember the timberland hitch. Or every time you tie your timberland's hitch, you remember the story of the crops. Easy way to remember things. We don't really need all this AI. You and I can remember conversations when we talk about shows. You remembered right off the fly there that was the Boy Scout leader. You remember those things. We have to tell the stories. We have to talk to each other. It's so important. I love what you're doing, Mike. You're reaching out, you're grabbing brilliant people. Absolutely brilliant people, and you're putting them together, and we're having unbelievable conversations.
By the way, I take no responsibility for all the brilliant people that are part of this, but I'm glad they're here. Thank you for that.
You're like an excellent magnet, It's like, boom, please bring me all your brilliant people. Are you an alien, Mike?
No, man. Come on. Ask Matzell. He met me. Matzell and Lacey, they met me. I'm not an alien. I'm not an alien.
It could depend on your outfit. You could have one of those really super cool alien outfits.
It's funny you say that. If you guys are watching, so I have a filter on it, and it's a Snapchat filter, and it's just basically to wash out the acne and the rosacea on my face, right? But what it does is it brightens my eyes, like the Goa'uld from Stargate. If you guys have ever seen that, and I'm noticing from time to time. I never noticed this previously, but what it'll do to my eyes is it'll take like that super whiteness that's in there, and then if you turn just the right way or just the wrong way or whatever, it'll like the light will be weird, and my eyes will go kind of dark, and then they'll kind of lighten up again. It's crazy. It looks like I'm alien phasing in and out. Just for the record. It's just
I knew it.
It's just a Snapchat filter. I'm not an alien. I'm just saying. I promise. Anyway, go ahead.
You're gay old.
I'm not a Goa'uld. I'm not.
I know you. I knew it all along.
I do not have an Anubis hat back
symbiote.
Here. Wait. Joe in Florida is the guy with the Anubis hat. It's not me. Stop it. Anyway, go ahead. What you got?
You're the one with the symbiote.
No. I know symbiote. No, go ahead.
I'm kidding.
Go ahead.
That's
what you
funny.
got? Yeah.
Good stuff. I really think, Mike, that the storytelling thing is like you need to learn how to make a fire. You need how to cook some food. The dumb, stupid things that people don't even know anymore. I'm a carpenter. We all know this. So, like, the last couple of, 2 weeks probably, all this stuff is coming up with the guy who was out there shooting the thing with 16 millimeter film and narrating what he was doing on framing a house back in the day, 1948. Why am I getting all this now? That guy actually taught me a bunch of tricks that I didn't know. I never knew there was a plate that you could put on your circular saw to make you cut that angle for the bird's mouths.
Yeah. Wisdom, man. Wisdom in passing this stuff on. You know what I learned today? Matter of fact, so all the years I've been changing my oil, I've been crawling under the damn car and undoing the bolt, right? And draining the oil out. I found this little $20 gizmo on Amazon that'll actually drain the oil out from the top. So you don't have to go through all the mess. You put the thing in down I did it today, and you go burr, and it drains all the oil out and then puts it right back into the jug you have, right? That's what you're like, brr,
wow, that's convenient.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I was like, holy crap, is this going to work? Is this really going to work? Yeah, it worked. It totally worked. I got the oil change in like 15, 18 minutes today, like all told, filter and everything. So I just jacked up the thing, just barely climb under there. Once the oil was drained from the top, I didn't have to undo the thing, and then the oil pan, nothing. And then I'm telling you,
you didn't get a handful of oil when you took the filter out.
Nothing. I got no oil on my face. Nothing. It was amazing. And so I'm just saying, like these are the types of tricks, right? The old man tricks that tell you, go do the thing. Go spend look how much you're gonna spend on oil change anyway. You spend one time the $20. And
$50.
It's $20 on Amazon. Minimum. I'm not even kidding, and it works like a charm. I couldn't believe it. It's all you see. So there's the two clear tubes, and out of the spigot. So you put it right down into where you pull the oil. What's the thing? The stick. Dipstick. Yeah. So where you put it right into there, and then you start it up, and the other one goes into the oil jug you got. So it just goes. You see the oil coming up. It's all into the clear tube. It's all brrr. I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Anyway, old man wisdom, man. Like, don't do stuff you don't have to do. If you don't have to do it, buy the right tool for the right job. Anyway, so yeah, back to what you were saying, and this. So how do we do this going forward? Meaning that the decay of distributed knowledge, and how do we retain this? Is it as you're describing?
We gotta talk to each other. I mean, it's one of the things that I noticed. I mean, I spent a year, all last year, building a house for a lady. She's old. She's going blind. She wants the things a certain way. Well, this is up to code. This is not up to code. This is the way that it's got to be. You know, looking at market resale value and everything else like that. And it's like, no, you're building a house for the old lady. Just do it the way that she wants it. Who cares about all the other things that are going on? You know, Mike, you want to do your show. James wants to do his show. You know, people want to write their books. And that's what you do. You talk to people. I mean, we have to start doing that again. We're not. I mean, I noticed the things on the TikTok and all the things that come through on your little social media that you have no opportunity not to look at, because even if you're looking at a YouTube politics thing, you still get to watch the TikTok video unless you push the 5-second button.
Yeah.
But it's in your face. Get it out of your face. You know, talk to people, talk to James, talk to whoever. You know, we need that social interaction. That's the kind of people that we are. You know, that's
but not just that, the wisdom that comes from it. Like, you know, even, you know, sidling up to the bar and having a beer together, you know, there's wisdom that's shared there. You know, it's
you need a Harbor Freight chainsaw for $49 on a stick.
Yeah, tell me about it. It saved my life, saved me a ton of work. Like the right tool for the right job. Like this is the type of stuff that we need to talk to each other about. It's a simple stuff if you know how to do things, but if you don't know how to do things, it's incredibly difficult. Oh, another thing, which maybe you don't know if you guys are into changing your own oil and cleaning out your oil pans and whatnot. Throw some sawdust in there, grind it around, and I mean, like just the old tricks. These are old tricks, right? And that becomes exactly what we can't lose. Look, and I know the AI will have a lot of this stuff. It'll have it like kind of baked into it as YouTube videos and people doing these things. But still, if eventually at some point this stuff goes down, these are things we need to know, things we need to talk to with each other.
I mean, don't you think that maybe they're trying? That's how they're buffering the AI down. We're not going to teach you those stupid things on like how to change the oil in a car.
Yeah, I don't know. Who said it? OG Skywatch said this a long time ago. What's up, OG Skywatch is in the chat. I think he said this a long time ago, months ago. That it's wild to me that people know all this stuff about, you know, all the stats about baseball or all the stuff about Marvel comics, but they don't know how to change their own oil in their car type of stuff. I mean, it's real. Like this is the world we live in. And it's just, I mean, it's good. It's convenient because you can pay people to do things. But when there's nobody around to pay them to do things, then how do you do the things yourself? It's very problematic. If I misquoted you, OG Skywatch, holler. But anyway, what else you got, Jay, regarding all the rest of this? Go ahead, sir.
I really think that's the thing is that there's something amiss about the fact that they're taking all that down. It's disappearing at a rapid rate. It has been for a little while. It's just noticeable now because it's going away so fast. The AI is going to take off. They changed I had to do the update on the phone. So when I did the update on the phone, it automatically updated all of the apps that I had with it. So it updated the Facebook app. So now I get Ask Meta, their AI, on just about everything. Unless it's a picture of my cousin's kids playing soccer or something. They want you to take their take on it. We're not taking a take on anything. We're listening to all the different takes. But if you click on those little buttons on the whatever it may be, I'll give you an off the board one. The new tin roofing that they got going on. Ask Meta AI about. And it takes you into all the YouTube videos, installation procedures, and everything else like that. So you know more than anyone out there about that. That's an excellent tool, but in the same aspect is who's going to do it? Are you going to show that information to the guy that you want to do it? Or are you going to keep it a secret?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't. This is why we do this, to talk to each other. It's again, one of the lost arts of the world is talking to each other, and I think you can probably build empires talking to each other. Except we're entering an era where people are terrified to answer the phone. It's so weird. It's so weird.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like what Matt was saying in his whole conversation and everything else like that, with the handbills on the telephone poles. Somebody with a Brighton Impress, roll the ink on the thing, put the paper on it, spin the thing around 2 seconds, put it back, paper. You're kicking out 100 of them a minute. Put them on all the telephone poles, all four sides. We used to do that when bands were coming to the bars that I ran when I was a bar back. You want to pick up an extra $20? Here's 300 things. Go down there to the university and staple them around all the telephone poles.
Missing cat.
Whatever. Oh my God. We're not after hours yet, Mike. I'm sorry.
We're way after hours, but we got to wrap it because it is a work night for me. It's a work night for you, and you're way later than me, so you're time traveling. But go ahead, drop the F-bombs. We're late enough. But and again, remember, we don't have any handlers. Fuck the handlers. We do this ourselves.
I shouldn't tell the story anyway.
Are you sure?
I don't know if those people are dead. Okay. Those people should be dead before I tell the story. I don't want to taint their name or anything else like that. It was kind of a racy story.
Okay, fair enough. So go do some research, some public records, and find out if those people are dead. And I look forward to hearing that in the future.
I'll tell you privately over beers one day, and then you can decide whether or not we can release it.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I don't want to. That not first time on the show.
Fair enough. Just a reminder too, guys, when we have these conversations, I know it feels like some bros having some brews, that type of stuff. But this goes out to thousands of people. so just remember that, you curate your takes as if many people are going to hear this because they do. So that becomes a thing, right? So I just
you can always join the Discord and chat with us all night long.
There you go. You can always join the Discord and just come chop it up after hours, not being recorded. But this is recorded and it is a podcast, and it does go to a podcast feed, and that's where most of the audience is. And so, yeah. So just a reminder that, don't show your ass, or your ass gets shown in perpetuity. And if you show up and show your ass and you're like, Mike, that was really bad. I regret that. Can you redact it? Just send me a message. I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to. Final thought, Jay. Let's wrap this. It's late.
I don't know. I don't really have a thing. I told you one time that I would not come without a thing, a quote or something.
That's fair enough. No Jatro. That's cool.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure I have a final thought like I did the first time when I said, you know what? Create a peaceful day.
That's good.
You know, you can do it.
I got one for you, and this is for from Daryl in New York if she's out there. This is for Jay, who doesn't have a Jatro for us tonight, which you're allowed. We're all human. It goes like this. We'll wait for the bass to drop. How about that? Let's see. Is this the one? That's the one. Here's the Jatro via Daryl in New York to Jay in New York. And it goes exactly like this. Wait for the bass to drop. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Anything on that, Jay?
It's beautiful, Daryl. Thanks for saving my ass. I owe you lunch.
There you go. 100%. You're the best, brother. Appreciate you very much. Say hi to the fam, and thanks for being you. Always a pleasure. Thanks for being the bro behind the scenes as well, and always being as chipper and cheerful as you are. It inspires me on a daily basis, and thank you very much for that.
You're welcome, Mike. I appreciate everything you do. You know,
thank you.
You're a ballerina.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I do my best, but as you can tell, that's all I've got. All I can do is my best. I appreciate you very much, Jay. As we finish, don't forget to give our friends a follow if you want to help Troubled Minds. TroubledMinds.org/friends. Lots of amazing people down there. Like I said, I can't take credit for all the amazing minds that are part of this. It's just I've been lucky to be in the middle of the whirlwind and just meet and collaborate with so many smart folks. So please give them a follow. Links in the description down below. TroubledMinds.org/friends. Big list. If I left you off there, you deserve to be there. Please be there. Just let me know. We'll put you on there. You don't have to do anything other than retweet us, spread the word, whatever. All the rest. What's up? Shout out Sylvain. Follow Sylvain. He's down there on Twitter. Actually, you can follow him there. What's up? Always listening over on Twitch. Appreciate it. And retweeting the hell out of the stuff we do. Thank you very much for that. That's it. You just got to spread the word. Remember, it doesn't have to be digital. If you want to help Troubled Minds directly, spread the word. Let people know a conversation is happening. Well, we're not going to tell you who to vote for. This is not some sort of political, nonsensical bullshit show. This is some other sort of nonsensical bullshit show. At least we're in the realm of nonsensical bullshit, but we're not going to tell you who to vote for. So, hey. That's that. If you want to help Troubled Minds directly, there's some links down there if you want to send a little bit of scratch. Thank you to John B tonight, John 5B, for sending a tip over on Rumble. And thanks to all the Patreons and all the individuals that have tipped over the years on all the places. I thank you very much for that. Lots of that goes to paying my tax bills. Dear God. The tax bills. So thank you for that. As we finish, anything, Jay, before we get out of here? We got about 20 seconds. Perfect.
Be strong, be sure, be true.
Perfect. It goes exactly like what he said. And also, ahoo, don't forget the old howls we used to do in the old days of Troubled Minds.
Wet Chihuahuas unite.
As we finish, don't forget to howl at the moon, because you never know when the last time we may see a full moon is. Oh. It goes exactly like this. From our Troubled Minds to yours, be strong. I'm just kidding. Be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our Troubled Minds to yours. Have a great night. I thought I'd fuck it up and see if anybody noticed, but the only one who noticed was me. You guys have a fantastic one. We'll be back tomorrow night with more Troubled Minds. God willing, you guys be the best person you could be tomorrow, because it does matter, not just to you, it matters to the rest of us, and it matters to the butterfly effect to the rest of the world. You guys are incredible. Thanks for being part of this. Michael Strange, out.